Chapter 563. When Chu Qingyan accepted her fate and ran around the prince's residence, the servants in the residence were already used to it. The young Wangfei was often punished by His Highness. At first, they all thought that the young Wangfei had fallen out of favor. Some blind people even gossiped. Unfortunately, not long after, she disappeared. Later, in the Wangfu, many servants understood one thing. In this Wangfu, you can offend anyone, but you can't offend His Highness young Wangfei, because he can make you pack up and leave at any time. When Chu Qingyan ran the 9th lap, she was still as light as a swallow. She didn't know if it was because of big ice cubes training over the past few years, but she found that her waist wasn't sore and her legs didn't hurt anymore. She also felt more energetic. Just as the last lap was about to be completed, her father scurried out from the side. Kai, look. Father caught a cricket. It's so big. This way, I can fight crickets with Hualing. The father in front of her was still as handsome as he was 4 years ago. It was as if time hadn't left any traces on him. Chu Qingyan looked at the pitiful cricket in his hand and cleared her throat. Father, daughter thinks that instead of fighting crickets, carving flowers in grass is better. I have Woody. Whatever I want, Woody will carve it for me. It doesn't matter. That's right, I also want Woody to help me make a cage. The cage doesn't need to be too big, but it needs to have a bed because the cricket needs to sleep. It also needs a bathtub and a dressing table. Father Chu answered matter-of-factly as he counted with his fingers. Chu Qingyan thought of Hualing, who was pestered to the point of tears by her father a few days ago. She couldn't help but observe a moment of silence for him. Father's condition was sometimes good and sometimes bad. In these 4 years, Yin Luo had been studying his condition. Fortunately, it didn't worsen. Instead, it improved little by little. It was a pity that her father's ability to tease people increased. Hualing and the others wouldn't take the initiative to meet him if they could avoid him. As a result, her father was always jumping up and down in the residence looking for traces of Xiao Lai. As she thought about her father's condition, Chu Qingyan suddenly recalled that Sister Yin Luo had sent someone to summon her this morning. Since she had nothing to do now, she took her father to the Yin Garden in the prince's mansion. The Yin Garden was a place specially opened up for her to grow herbs and research poisons. As soon as Chu Qingyan entered, she saw people hoeing in the herb garden. She crossed her arms and leaned against the door. She could not help but laugh. Why are you alone today? Where's Ethereal? What is he doing here? I can handle it myself. Cheng Yanluo wiped the sweat off her forehead and spoke in a cold tone. Chu Qingyan shrugged. The two of them had been in a love-hate relationship for 4 years, but it was still the same. The people around them had been anxious at the beginning, but now, they could make a pot of tea and watch the progress from the side. I heard that the Hollow Man isn't feeling well today. I wonder if it's because he ate something bad, or if he ate something bad. Mr. Chu kept repeating the same sentence over and over again. Cheng Yanluo couldn't help but frown when she heard this. Her expression did not escape Chu Qingyan's eyes. She curled her lips into a smile. These two were really awkward. One clearly liked her very much, but she refused to say it. The other clearly cared about her very much, but he refused to admit it. She couldn't help but think of Yi Lingfeng and Du Guqing, who were far away in the Jiang Kingdom. Back then, everyone thought that Yi Lingfeng wouldn't be able to survive that stab, but Du Guqing didn't give up on him. She stayed by his bed day and night, taking care of him. After 7 days, Yi Lingfeng finally woke up and passed the critical period. Just when everyone thought that this pair of lovers should finally get married, right? However, the two of them did something that made everyone's jaws drop. After Yi Lingfeng recovered from his injuries, he began to confess his feelings to Du Guqing on various occasions, and at various times. He didn't care who was standing next to him. Unfortunately, Du Guqing rejected him time and time again. Yi Lingfeng, on the other hand, seemed to become braver with every setback. He came up with endless ways to express his feelings, trying to make her accept him bit by bit. There was once when Chu Qingyan found out that the two of them were still at the stage of confessing and rejecting each other. In a letter, Du Guqing asked her why she was tormenting herself. However, Du Guqing's answer was that if some things were too easily obtained, the other party wouldn't cherish them. Therefore, she wanted to engrave them in her heart. Chu Qingyan deeply admired these people who had the courage to live a life of love and hate. However, now that they were back to the main topic, when Chu Qingyan asked her why she was looking for her this morning, Cheng Yanluo's expression turned serious. I realized that my current treatment method isn't very effective for old Master Chu's illness, so I want to try another method. However, before that, I need to ask for your opinion. Will it be life-threatening? Chu Qingyan asked seriously. No, it's just that the process will be more painful. Cheng Yanluo shook her head. Hence, Chu Qingyan turned to ask the person beside her. Father, what do you think? All right, I want to transform back to my original form to make Danyang happy. Transform. Mr. Chu began to spin in circles again. Chu Qingyan nodded at Cheng Yanluo. Let's do it your way. Mr. Chu ran out of the garden to play, leaving only Chu Qingyan and Cheng Yanluo inside. Sister Yanluo, do you know what I want to do the most right now? Chu Qingyan asked her. What is it? Cheng Yanluo washed the dirt off her hands and turned to look at her. The young girl in front of her looked elegant and refined, but her every frown and smile were always charming. The little girl in front of her had already grown up. She was slender, elegant, bright, and lovely. I want to make money. Make a lot of money. Chu Qingyan sighed. Didn't you say that Big Ice Cube is tall, rich, and handsome? Are you saying that he's only tall, handsome, and not rich? Cheng Yanluo teased her. Chu Qingyan sighed softly. That was indeed the case in the past. But now we've invested a lot of manpower and resources into these towns and cities. We've built roads and bridges for the welfare of the people. Plus, we've searched for and processed the mineral resources in Fully Mountain Range. Big Ice Cube is about to run out of money. Although the fief is slowly starting to reap the harvest, it's just a drop in the bucket. I'm worried that if we have to build a dam soon, we'll really become paupers. Money wasn't everything, but it was absolutely impossible to do anything without it. She could now understand the importance of money. So what do you want to do? Cheng Yanluo had always believed in her intelligence and ability. As long as she said it, she would do it, no matter how difficult it was. Her question hit the nail on the head. Chu Qingyan whispered mysteriously. I have a preliminary plan, but I'm not sure if it'll work. Chapter 564. Cheng Yanluo's interest was piqued at the mention of a money-making opportunity. Tell me about it. Chu Qingyan narrowed her eyes and smiled. Do you remember the Shuexin lipstick that I asked you to develop? I remember. I always thought that it was pretty good. Cheng Yanluo's eyes lit up as if she had thought of something. She turned to look at her for confirmation. Are you thinking of selling it? Chu Qingyan chuckled. What do you think? What do you think? It's a good skincare product regardless of whether it's winter, spring, summer, or autumn. Even men can use it, let alone women. She had thought of this before, but they had been busy looking for herbs at that time. She didn't have the time or energy to do so. Besides, the time and place were not right. Later, she had followed Big Ice Cube to Lianqing. The first thing she had to do was to integrate into the life here and build the infrastructure. She had thought that she could live a life of luxury after hooking up with the tall, rich, and handsome Big Ice Cube. Unfortunately, she had been investing in manpower and resources ever since she arrived in Lianqing. The Fully Mountain Range was also a gap, so she had to invest money continuously. It could be said that they had been burning money. However, the iron ore mines in the Fully Mountain Range couldn't be stopped. That was what they relied on now, and could be used as a bargaining chip in future negotiations with the imperial court. That's right. But it's easier said than done. It won't be easy to put it on the market. Cheng Yanluo raised her doubts. I understand. Everything is difficult at the beginning. I only have a preliminary idea. If I'm sure it's going to be implemented, I'll need a detailed plan. Chu Qingyan winked at Cheng Yanluo mischievously. She continued, besides, the Shuexin lipstick alone won't be enough to satisfy the market. I have a few more that can beautify and protect one's skin. When we find a business opportunity, we can invest in them directly. You have a lot of them? Cheng Yanluo's eyes lit up. Yes. When the time comes, I'll write down the formula, and you can develop it into a finished product. You see, we have the technology and production. What we lack is a sales channel. Chu Qingyan stroked her chin and pondered with a frown. They had everything, except for the sales channel. If they could open up the market, even if they didn't make a lot of money, at least they wouldn't suffer a loss. Qing Yanluo nodded. Do you have any good ideas? I heard that there are many businessmen in Jiangnan. Jiangnan. Hey, I want to go to Jiangnan to see if I can find a business opportunity. Cheng Yanluo had wanted to visit Jiangnan for a long time. But she had always been in Jiangnan. The little girl had always been reliable, so Cheng Yanluo had never objected to her decisions. However, when she thought of Xiao Su, who had been taking good care of the little girl for the past few years, she couldn't help but tease. Do you think your ice cube will allow you to do these things? Is my big ice cube democratic? Cheng Yanluo shrugged. I'll wait and see. The matter was over. After all, they couldn't go to Jiangnan in a day or two. Chu Qingyan wanted to talk to Big Ice Cube about this matter after the spring flood. She wanted to give the other formulas to Yanluo first. If she could successfully produce them, she could use them to negotiate with people in Jiangnan. Then she would have a higher bargaining chip. After they finished talking about business, they began to talk about private matters. It's been a few years. Do you still want to waste time with him? Chu Qingyan asked casually. She plucked a green foxtail and shook it. Cheng Yanluo was squatting down to weed. Her palm was pricked by the thorns on the grass when she touched it. She immediately withdrew her hand and saw a drop of blood on her fingertip. She stared at the drop of blood in a daze for a while before wiping it with a brocade handkerchief. Her complexion had returned to normal. Who says I'm wasting time with him? I just haven't found the right one. Haven't found the right one? You've been surrounded by so many talented and handsome men these past few years. How can you say that you haven't found the right one? Chu Qingyan looked at her in disbelief. Don't tell me you don't like men. Cheng Yanluo rolled her eyes. What are you thinking? This kind of thing depends on mutual affection and fate. How can you just settle for someone? All right, I have nothing to say to that. Chu Qingyan sighed in her heart. In the eyes of outsiders, she was just running away. She was avoiding ethereal, avoiding the past, but not willing to face the future. Such feelings were contradictory, but the crux of the problem was there, and no one could solve it. She wanted to be treated wholeheartedly, but in Ethereal's heart, there was also a sense of responsibility. 6 years plus 4 years was already 10 years. 10 years was such a beautiful time for a woman, but she had wasted it on something that wasn't waiting. Chu Qingyan didn't know what she was waiting for. Was she unwilling to give up? Or was she unwilling to give up? Chu Qingyan felt uncomfortable every time she saw the two of them getting along with each other awkwardly. But when it came to matters of the heart, outsiders couldn't interfere. By the way, did you dress up as a man again today to swindle people? Rumor has it that Thousand-Face Red Fox is one of the 8 most handsome men. If outsiders know that Thousand-Face Red Fox is just a little girl who is still wet behind the ears, I don't know how many people's eyes will pop out of their sockets. Cheng Yanluo regained her vitality and said with a teasing tone. Chu Qingyan spread her hands and pretended to be a little annoyed. I don't know how I got on the list. I just saved a little girl who was almost hit by a carriage on the street. Word spread like wildfire and I got on the list. Didn't that little girl say that she wanted to devote herself to you? Cheng Yanluo seemed to remember such a thing. I think she was thrown away by a big ice cube. Chu Qingyan couldn't remember clearly. You're even jealous of a girl. Cheng Yanluo couldn't help but sneer. You're so pretty, little girl. When you dress up as a woman, there are so many men kneeling under your skirt. When you dress up as a man, there are so many girls chasing after you. You're attractive to both men and women. Your big ice cube not only has to guard against men, but also against women. It's so cruel. She had to admit that the little girl had changed in the past few years. If she was a budding flower in the past, she was now a delicate peach blossom in full bloom. Her peach blossom was bright and dazzling. If she were a man, she would have taken action and taken such a beautiful girl into her pocket. Unfortunately, there was a very strong protector by her side. Chu Qingyan's face darkened slightly. Don't talk nonsense. My big ice cube won't do that. Our relationship is pure. Pure. Cheng Yanluo seemed to have heard something funny. She covered her mouth and laughed uncontrollably, ignoring the mud on her hands. Chapter 565. Chu Qingyan felt a little uncomfortable from her laughter, and couldn't help but push her shoulder. What's so funny? But it was as if Yanluo's laughing acupoint had been pressed and she couldn't stop laughing. Chu Qingyan could only stomp her feet, and leave in a huff. Really? I'm not going to talk to you anymore. Cheng Yanluo looked at the little girl's indignant, and somewhat fleeing figure, and couldn't help but curve her lips again. In the eyes of outsiders, such a clever and cunning person seems to become a different person when she talks about Xiao Su. TSK. If that ranking person saw this scene, would he still call her the thousand-faced red fox? These two people's status was so confirmed and they were clearly a couple. But these two people were able to maintain their relationship from 4 years ago until now. Above friends, but not yet lovers. However, these two people probably didn't realize that they were more intimate and sweet than ordinary husband and wife. It was just that they were already used to it, as if they were still in the circle from 4 years ago and hadn't jumped out yet. At this time, there needed to be some kind of collision. Only by shattering it could the two of them see each other clearly in the hazy mist. However, the little girl's question had indeed touched her heart. What was the point of waiting? Perhaps it had already become a habit. She smiled bitterly. Perhaps there had to be someone who was more outstanding than him, and understood her better than him to move her heart. Otherwise, she wouldn't be willing to give herself to another person so easily. She rubbed the wound on her fingertip. Although it was small and couldn't be seen, it hurt. It was like there was someone in this world. Although you didn't see him, he still existed in your heart, and made you feel pain. A few days passed in a flash. The spring flood came as scheduled. Those few days were rainy and torrential. The source of Luo River came from a high mountain on the border with Junlan. The snow melted and large amounts of snow water flowed into the river, causing the water level to rise. The water was so fierce that it almost caused a flood in 2 days. Fortunately, we used the little princess method to open up a river channel, and diverted a portion of the water from the middle reaches of Luo River to the wasteland. That's how we managed to disperse such a large amount of water. Otherwise, with the ferocity of this spring flood, even if we increased the height of the dam, it would still be destroyed. Hualing had just returned from Luo River. When he spoke about this matter, his tone was a bit emotional. At this time, everyone was discussing the spring flood in the conference hall, and Hualing was the first to speak. Turin nodded. If it weren't for the little princess's idea, we would have suffered a great loss this spring. Not only would the people's houses be destroyed, but this year's harvest would also be affected. Chu Qingyan was a little excited at the high praise from the crowd. However, she was still very calm on the surface because she wanted to show that she was neither arrogant nor discouraged. The spring flood had passed in 2 days. After yesterday's high tide, it would gradually decrease in momentum from today onwards. Once the front was stabilized, there was no need to worry about the back. Arrest all the officials responsible for building Luo River's dam, and interrogate them. Make them spit out all the money they took from the people. Xiao Su's expression was a bit heavy at this time, and his tone was stern. Because a few days ago, when they were preparing to increase the height of the dam, they suddenly discovered that the construction of the dam had been shoddy. The impact of the river 2 years ago had already caused cracks to appear. It was already lucky that it hadn't collapsed before. This year's spring flood was expected to be fiercer than the last 2 years. This dam couldn't withstand it at all. When the time came, as long as one side collapsed, it wouldn't only affect the people downstream of Luo River, but also the entire city. Therefore, in those few days, the master didn't have a good rest at all. He was in full command to urge everyone to rebuild the dam, and strive to get this done before the high tide. Then, after the crisis passed, he would come back and interrogate them one by one. As Xiao Su's assistant, Lu Rui immediately stepped forward to accept the order. Lu Rui used to be Xiao Su's strategist. Now that Xiao Su was in charge of the fief within 100 miles of Lian City, he could appoint people at will. Lu Rui had previously been by his side giving advice, and his performance was outstanding. It could be said that he was an expert in planning and a talent with long sleeves. Therefore, Xiao Su arranged for him to be the Minister of War to assist him in managing the fief. And in these few years, Lu Rui didn't disappoint him. He managed all the big and small affairs of Lian City in an orderly manner. Therefore, Xiao Su basically handed over all the matters to him. After Xiao Su finished assigning tasks, the officials who had received their orders in the meeting hall all left. At this time, only Chu Qingyan and Xiao Su were left. I didn't expect that we would take on such a big mess. Chu Qingyan sighed. When she first arrived, her eyes were filled with desolation. She was stunned and thought that she had come to an isolated island. She was prepared to survive. It could be said that it was a place where chickens lay eggs and birds didn't shit. Fortunately, they had slowly changed everything here step by step. Of course, the investment was huge. Chu Qingyan recalled that she had spent a lot of money to build the dam a few days ago, and her heart ached. I think you're quite happy with yourself. Xiao Su glanced at her before he picked up the brush. She had been running around with him all day long. If it wasn't building the city walls, it was rebuilding the dam, and it was patrolling the fief. He had never seen her complain about being tired or suffering. Chu Qingyan laughed when she heard that. Don't tell me you're going to cry? Even if you cry until you're blind, it's still the same. It can't be changed. It's better to transform it properly. Xiao Su nodded. You're aware. Chu Qingyan smiled complacently. Of course. After speaking, Chu Qingyan suddenly remembered that she had to compete with Jean Xian in the afternoon. Just as she was about to get up and leave, she felt a warm current flowing out from her lower abdomen. Following that, her waist had been sore for the past 2 days. Her waist went soft and she almost couldn't stand properly. Xiao Su, who was sitting behind the desk, felt that something was wrong with her. What's wrong? No. Chu Qingyan held onto the back of the chair and immediately denied it. She was done for. She had a bad premonition. Could it be that her period had come? It was said that women in ancient times usually had their period at the age of 14 or 15. She was already 15 now, so it should be about time. A few days ago, her mother had asked her about it. She didn't expect it to be so soon. However, Chu Qingyan comforted herself. Could it be that she was scaring herself? However, as if to verify her thoughts, a warm current flowed between her thighs. It felt sticky. She had experienced this strange feeling when she was 15 or 16 in modern times. It was too familiar. No, she had to leave this place quickly. Otherwise, if she was discovered by the Big Ice Cube, she would be embarrassed. Big Ice Cube, I have something important to do. I'll leave first. Just as she was about to leave quickly, a thunderous voice sounded from behind her. Wait. Chu Qingyan's feet instantly froze, but she didn't dare to turn around. What's the matter? Are you injured? Xiao Su furrowed his brows and looked at the figure that suddenly tensed up. He smelled the thick smell of blood in the air, and his face suddenly sank. Chapter 566. When Xiao Su's words fell, Chu Qingyan's entire body froze in place. Big Ice Cube, can your nose not be so sharp? Let me go. I want to dig a hole and hide in it. The smile on her lips had already stiffened. At this time, she could not move her body much because her first period was too strong. Also, her abdomen was filled with pain, and her face was starting to turn pale. So Chu Qingyan did her best to maintain her current position. She coughed to cover it up. No, nothing. Maybe you're wrong. I'm going back to my room now. I'm a bit tired after running around all day. After saying this, she wanted to slip away. But who could tell her who this wall that suddenly appeared in front of her was? The meat wall in front of her coldly said, Don't lie to me. Did you get hurt from fighting with someone again? Chu Qingyan was embarrassed. He said it like she only knew how to fight with people when she went out. I'm really fine. Maybe it floated in from outside. Chu Qingyan's head was filled with black lines as she tried to argue. Also, why was she discussing this with a man? But an explanation was a cover-up, and Xiao Su didn't believe her. The smell was getting stronger and stronger, and it made him frown deeply. He was about to grab her shoulder to check, but she quickly slipped away. Big Ice Cube, don't worry. It'll be fine in a few days. She let out a sigh of relief that she had successfully escaped. Then when she prepared to sneak away, She felt a sharp pain in her abdomen. She felt dizzy and then she fell unconscious. Xiao reached out to catch her unconscious body. He found that her face was terrifyingly pale. Without caring about anything else, he immediately carried her into the room. When he went out, he ran into Hualing. Xiao immediately ordered in a deep voice, "Call Miss Cheng." Hualing saw the unconscious little princess in his arms and the bloodstains on his master's sleeve. He was so scared that he immediately ran to call for someone. When Chu Qingyan slowly woke up, she found that she was lying on the bed in her room. At this time, she felt that her entire body was sore and her abdomen was still very uncomfortable. Then, she suddenly remembered what had happened before she fainted. She immediately buried herself in the blanket. How embarrassing! At this moment, a funny voice came from the side. "Why are you hiding? Your big ice cube isn't here. I really admire you. Even a menstrual cycle can cause you to faint." Upon hearing Yan Luo's voice, Chu Qingyan pulled down the blanket to get some fresh air. Her face was still flushed. "I don't know why my body is so weak. You haven't had a good night's sleep for the past few days because of the spring flood. You even went to Luo River to supervise the maintenance of the dam. How can your little body take it?" Cheng Yanluo walked to her bedside and handed her a cup of warm brown sugar ginger water. Chu Qingyan got up and took the bowl with both hands, trying to use the heat to drive away the coldness in her fingers. She defended herself. "How would I know that this thing would come at this time? If I knew, I would have stayed at home obediently. TSK. Didn't we already foresee this? Don't you feel that your body is a little tired recently?" Cheng Yanluo looked at her with her arms crossed, her tone exasperated. I've been too busy recently and neglected it." Chu Qingyan felt that her scalp was a little tight. "This is what happens when you don't take care of your body. Even we were shocked by you. I'm afraid that the entire prince's residence is talking about you fainting." Cheng Yanluo looked at her and shook her head. "The entire prince's residence?" Chu Qingyan bit the edge of the bowl, her cheeks starting to redden again. "His Highness knows that I fainted because..." She wanted to say something but stopped. How could Cheng Yanluo not know what she was thinking? She said with some mischief, "Of course he knows. You fainted, but you don't know how anxious your big ice cube was when he saw that you were unconscious. But when I found out the reason, I thought back to his face just now. It was as black as the bottom of a pot." When she rushed over, several plum blossoms had bloomed on Xiaosu's sleeves. She thought that something big had happened because Xiaosu's face was so ugly. When she finished examining him, she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. When she told him the truth, she realized that Xiaosu was stunned. Someone like him who didn't show his emotions was stunned. Then an unnatural expression appeared on his face. Before she could see it clearly, she heard him instruct her to take good care of Qingyan. Then he quickly got up and left. She felt like she was fleeing. So many emotions had happened to Xiaosu in such a short period of time. It was simply inconceivable. She had to admit that if there was someone in the world who could make Xiaosu's face change, it could only be this person. Chu Qingyan covered her head with the blanket again. "I don't want to live anymore. I don't want to live anymore. How can I face people in front of His Highness in the future? No, it's not just Xiaosu. I'm afraid everyone in the prince's residence knows." Cheng Yanluo unhurriedly added another stab. Chu Qingyan's shouting paused, and then she wailed, "I don't want to live." Cheng Yanluo couldn't help but laugh and shake her head. At this moment, Xiaosu had just changed his clothes when he heard a servant report that the young princess Consort had woken up. If it was the old him, he would already be on his way to see her. But now he was a little hesitant. At that time, he thought that she was injured. In the end, the answer was that she was having her period, which a woman of her age should experience. He was a little dumbfounded on the spot. He had never come into contact with a woman before. Almost all the people who served him since he was young were men. When he went out to train and lead troops in the military camp, it was even more impossible for there to be a woman by his side. So he didn't understand these things and was very unfamiliar with them. Now that he was told that his little fellow wasn't injured, but had her period, he actually felt a little dazed and at a loss. This feeling was very unfamiliar. He didn't know how to adjust, so at this moment, he chose to properly sort out this strange feeling. Even if he hadn't eaten pork, he had seen pigs run. He more or less knew that this kind of thing was a very painful thing for a woman. This was because when the little fellow was in his arms, she was constantly frowning. Moreover, she was very uncomfortable. If she didn't take care of it well, she would have a lifelong illness. Xiao originally wanted to ask Cheng Yinluo how to take care of the little fellow during this period of time. But when he thought of the teasing look she gave him today, he dismissed the idea. Then who should he ask for advice? Fire spirit? Tauren? Wood spirit? They had been by his side since he was young. If he didn't know about this kind of thing, it was even more impossible for them to know. It was a pity that water spirit wasn't by his side. However, he couldn't bring himself to ask water spirit about this kind of thing. Xiao had never felt such a headache before. Moreover, it was because of a woman's affairs. Finally, he thought of someone. Someone who already had a family, he would definitely understand. That was Father Chu. Poor Xiao. In his desperation, he actually thought of Father Chu. Chapter 567. Xiao was a person who did what he said. He walked out the door and asked Hualing about Father Chu's whereabouts. When he learned that he was playing in Muling's courtyard, he walked over without hesitation. Hualing saw that his master didn't go to the little princess consort's room, and instead went to find Father Chu. He couldn't understand this, but when he wanted to follow, his master coughed and rejected him. Hualing was even more confused. Why did it feel like his master was going to be a thief? No. How could he think of his master like that? He must have been too busy these past 2 days. That's why he had such a misconception. It must be like that. While Hualing was thinking nonsense, his master had already left far away. The King of England had a courtyard that was specially designed for Hualing. This place also became a place that Father Chu frequented. The scene that appeared every day played out again. Ancestor, that's not for weeding. AI, ancestor, you can't touch that. The servants were already used to this wailing and pleading. Because every day, Lord Muling would suffer from Master Chu's torture. Even though Lord Muling was still young, his hair was about to turn white from worry. He could be seen pulling at his own hair every day. But that Master Chu never got tired of it. When Xiao came in, he saw the scene. Muling, can this bird fly? After saying that, Father Chu's hand lost strength, and the wooden bird was thrown out. That was just made. I haven't put on the wings yet. Muling couldn't stop it in time, and couldn't help covering his face. That flying bird landed beside a pair of boots that suddenly appeared. Master? Muling didn't think that his master would come to his courtyard. Scallion in reverse. Father Chu happily ran over and asked in a serious and expectant tone. Are you here to find Father? Muling couldn't help but roll his eyes. His master appeared here. Of course he was here to find him. How could he be here to find Father Chu? But he didn't think that the master in front of him would nod. Looking at Father Chu, who turned around and made a face at her before leaving with her master, Wood Spirit began to have the same misconception as Hualing. Something seemed wrong with her master today. Could it be that he had opened it the wrong way today? At this time, Xiao had brought Chu Machen's father to a pavilion in the mansion. Sit. Xiao invited him to take a seat. Mr. Chu nodded and sat on the chair obediently. Then, he casually grabbed a piece of plum blossom cake from the table and took a bite. He spoke with a lisp. I heard that when there's a flood, there will be a lot of fish. Help me make a fishing net, and then you'll accompany me to fish, okay? It's not a flood. It's a spring flood. Xiao corrected him without thinking. You can have the wood spirit make the fishing net for you. If you want to go fishing, you have to bring some guards. It's not safe to go alone. At this time, Xiao had something on his mind, so he didn't think too much and directly answered him. Oh. Chu Machen's father was a bit disappointed. His son-in-law always refused to make him a fishing net. Even little Blossom would catch mice for her father-in-law. However, Chu Machen's mood left as quickly as it came. He finished the cake in a few bites, then tilted his head to look at his distracted son-in-law in front of him. Inverted Scallion, do you have something that you need Daddy's help with? Xiao Su was a bit unaccustomed to Chu Machen's cleverness. How did you know? Could it be that he was being too obvious? Because the weasel pays a New Year's visit to the chicken. He definitely doesn't have any good intentions. Chu Machen's father pretended to be serious as he told his son-in-law the proverb he learned from the wood spirit today. Xiao Su's eyes twitched when he heard this. It should be one doesn't visit a temple without a cause. It's all the same. Chu Machen's father chuckled as he waved his hand. Xiao Su didn't argue with him about the usage of this proverb. After thinking for a moment, he said somewhat bitterly, "Do you know what you should pay attention to when it's inconvenient to have your period?" "Ah." Chu Machen's father suddenly shouted, "Son-in-law, you're having your period." Xiao Su felt like a flock of crows were flying over his head. Did he ask the wrong person? Was it too late to turn around and leave now? "No, it's Kaikai." Xiao Su braced himself and said, "Kaikai." Chu Machen's father stood up immediately. His face was full of surprise and shyness. Then he sat down again. Xiao Su couldn't understand Chu Machen's father's actions at all. Chu Machen's father suddenly said to him very seriously, "Let me tell you a piece of good news. My Kaikai is all grown up. She can get married and have children. Daddy can hold a grandchild now." "Oh no, it's a maternal grandchild. That's great." Xiao Su didn't know that there was such a saying when women were having their period. He was very surprised. After Chu Machen's father calmed down, he secretly whispered into his son-in-law's ear, "Son-in-law, did you know? You can have children with Kaikai now." Xiao Su was stunned. He was completely dazed by his father's words. "What's wrong, Chu Machen? You don't look right. Is it hot? Why is your face red?" Chu Machen's father looked at his son-in-law. His skin, which was usually as white as ice cream, was now rosy, like a peach hanging from a branch. Xiao Su stood up with a whoosh. "Nothing. I suddenly remembered that there's something I haven't done yet. I'll go take care of it first." Hey. Son-in-law, don't go. I haven't told you what to pay attention to yet." Chu Machen's father yelled at Chu Machen's back, but he found that the more he spoke, the faster his son-in-law walked. Strange. There were no dogs chasing after him. Why was his son-in-law walking so fast? Chu Machen's father couldn't understand, but he felt that it was a good thing that Kaikai was having her period. He had to report this to Dan Yang as soon as possible. Chu Machen's father took the plate of pastries from the table and ran back quickly. At this moment, Xiao Su, who felt a rush of heat in his head, only cared about walking forward. When he came back to his senses, he found that he was already at the door of the little fellow's room. He suddenly didn't know how to walk. Xining came over with a bowl of hot porridge in her hand. When she saw His Highness standing at the door like a log, she felt a little strange. However, she suddenly remembered that the lotus seed soup was still simmering on the stove for her mistress. She immediately walked in front of His Highness and handed the plate in her hand to him. "Your Highness, this is for mistress. She hasn't eaten much today." In the past, whenever her master had a headache or fever, it was always His Highness who was in charge of taking care of her. Therefore, Xining handed the plate over to His Highness and ran off on her own. Xiao Su subconsciously took the plate and looked at the hot porridge and vegetables in his hand. For the first time, he felt that he didn't know how to cook. "Xining, are you outside? Help me get a hot water bottle. It's so cold." Chu Qingyan's weak voice came from inside, which made Chu Machen's heart ache. Chapter 568. The weak voice inside made Xiao Su's heart tremble. Without thinking much, he carried the tray into the room. Chu Qingyan heard footsteps and thought it was Xining. She forced herself to sit up. This was the first time she had experienced what menstrual cramps felt like. In the past, whenever her roommates had menstrual cramps, they would be admitted to the hospital for intravenous drips. She was very glad that she could run, jump, and eat when her period came. But now that she was experiencing it, she felt as though she had been scooped out of cold water in the middle of winter. When her hands slipped weakly and she almost fell, a pair of large hands suddenly reached out to support her shoulders and helped her lean against the bed wall. Chu Qingyan was a little slow to react. When did Xining become so strong? Then she lifted her head and was instantly shocked. A big ice cube? Chu Qingyan's shock did not escape Xiao Su's eyes. He coughed softly and got up. Are you okay? The moment he said that, the two of them instantly fell into an awkward situation. This was the first time Chu Qingyan felt shy in front of him. It was a little difficult to talk about such things. I am okay. I'm just a little weak and uncomfortable. I'm afraid of the cold. Chu Qingyan lowered her head. She was already roaring in her heart. God, what the hell was she talking about? She was actually discussing such things with a guy one day. Xiao Su originally felt a little unnatural, but when he saw her pale lips and pale face, he immediately abandoned those thoughts. He sat down and looked at her with furrowed brows. What can I do to make you feel better? She could hear the seriousness and concern in his voice. Although Chu Qingyan was still a little embarrassed, she thought about how he had seen her fall and make a fool of herself over the past 5 years. It was not that he had not seen her fall or make a fool of herself. It was just that this was the first time that she had done so. Her uneasiness faded a little. Give me that hot water bottle. It's just a bag filled with hot water. Chu Qingyan gestured with her hands. Today, she asked Xining to sew it according to the appearance of modern hand warmers. However, this girl just said that she was going to change the water, and now she was nowhere to be seen. Xiao Su looked around the room, but didn't find the geothermal water bag she mentioned. His face darkened. Is it really cold? He returned to sit in front of her after a fruitless search. Yes, it was winter when the snow was melting, and it was even colder than a snowy day. Chu Qingyan hugged herself under the blanket. Not only was she cold, but her waist was also aching. She did not know why. She had been practicing martial arts diligently for the past few years, but now, she was very afraid of pain. The pain in her lower abdomen made her want to roll around on the bed. She did not even have the strength to answer. Xiao Su could clearly feel that she was holding on. He frowned and said, I'll help you call Miss Chung. Just as he stood up, he felt his sleeve being tugged. He looked down and saw a slender, snow-white hand tugging at his sleeve. His gaze followed her hand and heard her say weakly, No need. This is a very normal thing. It'll be over after a while. But when she thought about having to go through this terrible 7 days every month, Chu Qingyan felt like she had nothing left to live for. Xiao Su heard her say this and thought for a moment before sitting down again. He originally wanted to give her some porridge, but looking at the situation, it was obvious that she couldn't eat anything. He still had a lot of things to do, but when he saw her forehead sweating and her fingers gripping the blanket so tightly that the tips of her fingers turned white, he couldn't get up. The person in front of him usually had big, mischievous eyes, but at this moment, they were squinting weakly. The luster was hidden, but it revealed a rarely seen weakness, which made people unable to help but feel pity for her. When he first met this little fellow, she was only 10 years old. After a year of twists and turns and 4 years of growth, she was now a graceful 15-year-old young lady. But the woman who should have been raised in the boudoir and enjoyed doting on had followed him and suffered all kinds of hardships, but he had never seen her weak and painful side. Now that he saw her forcefully enduring the pain, Xiao Su's heart unknowingly melted into a puddle of water. Big ice cube, why don't you knock me out? That way, I won't feel the pain. Chu Qingyan was in so much pain that she was about to lose consciousness. She didn't think that this kind of labor pain would be so unbearable, so she couldn't help but ask the person beside her for help. Where is it cold? Where does it hurt? His eyes were full of worry. Stomach. Chu Qingyan took a long time to hear what he was asking. At this moment, she gritted her teeth and replied. Xiao Su nodded. Then he lifted her quilt and reached his hand in. Suddenly, Chu Qingyan felt that her stomach seemed to be touched by something warm. She subconsciously said, A little lower, a little lower. Yes, there, it's so comfortable. Xiao Su felt the soft skin under his fingers through the cloth, but at this moment, he dismissed the distracting thoughts that shouldn't be in his mind. He wholeheartedly channeled his energy into his palm, and then transmitted the heat to her body through conduction. Chu Qingyan was in a daze. She felt a warm flow from her lower abdomen into her body, and then it flowed through her entire body. The cold in her body was immediately dispelled, and she felt her whole body suddenly become warm. Seeing the colorless paleness on her face fade a little, and a faint red light appear. Xiao didn't stop, and continued to transmit the heat to her. It wasn't until the pain on her face faded, and her breathing became even that Xiao stopped. When he was about to withdraw, a pair of soft and boneless hands suddenly grabbed his hand, not letting him leave. Xiao body was slightly startled, and he looked at the person on the bed with some surprise. He saw that she was already deeply asleep, and there was a sweet smile on her mouth. The corner of his mouth couldn't help but float up into a faint smile. But the touch from his hand made him a little absent-minded. He didn't know when it started, but he started to avoid arousing suspicion with the little fellow. In the past, she would often take his hand and stroll around, but now she had learned to keep a distance from him. Could it be that this was the difference between a child and an adult? Xiao was a little puzzled. But this kind of change was formed invisibly, as if the two were deliberately maintaining it. However, when he felt the little girl's rare attachment, Xiao felt a long-lost sense of satisfaction in his chest. This kind of feeling of being needed was really something that he hadn't felt for a long time. Although the little girl would still stick by his side like before, she rarely showed the dependence she had in the past. At this time, Turin's voice sounded from outside. "Master, there is an important matter to report from Fuli Mountain Range." Turin's voice was a little anxious. Xiao didn't think much, and withdrew his hand from her lower abdomen. He helped her adjust the quilt, and after confirming that she wouldn't catch a cold, he got up and left in large strides. The person on the bed was sleeping soundly, and only felt as if she was hugging a heater. Then she slowly drifted off to sleep. Chapter 569. When Xiao went out, Turin was already waiting at the door. "What's the matter?" Xiao asked. Lu Yu, who is in charge of mining in the Fuli mountain range, sent someone to deliver a letter. The person who delivered the letter is now in the meeting hall, Turin reported as he walked. Xiao nodded, and the two of them headed to the meeting hall. As soon as Xiao entered the meeting hall, a servant in green standing in the middle of the hall knelt down and saluted. "Your Highness. Lu Yu sent you here?" Xiao sat down on the main seat and asked. "Lord Lu ordered me to deliver the letter. This is Lord Lu's token." As he spoke, the servant in green took out a jade pendant. Turin took it and returned it to him after confirming that there was no mistake. "Where's the letter from Lu Yu?" Xiao didn't beat around the bush and asked directly. Lu Yu was a young man who had sought refuge with Xiao 2 years ago. He was responsible, upright, and talented, but he hadn't been successful. Later, when he saw Xiao building roads and forests in Lian City, he sent an invitation to become his disciple. Xiao saw that he was bold and careful, so after a year of consideration he put him in charge of mining in the Fuli mountain range. Speaking of ore, they had accidentally discovered a large amount of ore buried under the mountain. It could be said that the Sichuan emperor had unintentionally planted a willow, and it had turned into a shade. However, the ore wasn't easy to mine, and it required a lot of manpower and resources. At the same time, to prevent the people in the capital from finding out, Xiao ordered people to mine in secret. In the past 2 to 3 years, they had only mined less than 1/5 of the ore. However, the mining of ore was the most important thing for them at the moment. This was because everyone knew that in the next 2 years, the Sichuan emperor would definitely do something. In order to support the 4th prince as the crown prince, he would eliminate dissidents. He would do anything, and the refining of ore was what they relied on. They could attack or retreat. Xiao didn't like to chase after fame and fortune, but it didn't mean that he was a paper tiger that could be bullied by others. Moreover, he had someone he wanted to protect. In the past, he could let them do whatever they wanted, and he could stay out of it. But now it was different. Even he couldn't stand their unrestrained ambition. As long as they didn't offend him, he could tolerate it. However, everyone knew that this seemingly peaceful situation would be broken sooner or later. Xiao opened the letter written by Lu Yu. It was written in code. If one wasn't taught by him, they wouldn't be able to understand the words. The letter said that they had discovered a very special type of ore in the past few days. It could be used to forge weapons that could be broken with a single blow. Furthermore, it was more durable than the previous weapons. They hoped that he would make a trip to the Fuli Mountains when he had the time. Xiao skimmed through the letter and handed it to Turin. After Turin scanned through it, he was pleasantly surprised. Master, this is a good thing. If these weapons are sharper and more durable than the ones we use, then it would be like adding wings to a tiger for war. Xiaosu's face also showed a hint of joy. That's right. We'll set off for the Fuli Mountains in 3 days. He wanted to see the results of the forging with his own eyes. Yes, I'll go and prepare for the trip in 3 days. Turin accepted the order with a smile. After the people in the meeting hall left, Xiaosu stood by the window with his hands behind his back. Although it was already early spring, the breeze that came from the front was still mixed with the coldness of winter. It was drizzling, and the distant mountain peak was already shrouded in a thin mist, making it difficult to see its appearance. Xiaosu was no longer as happy as before. His expression was somewhat complicated. He looked in the direction of the capital with a heavy gaze. He hoped that one day, they wouldn't have to meet on the battlefield. After all, the person holding the sword against him was his close relative. In a magnificent palace, palace servants went in and out. They were either carrying baths, clothes, or bath towels in their hands. Following the direction that the palace servants went in, there was a bathhouse surrounded by mist. A strong figure was faintly discernible in the mist. You can all leave. After the palace servants put down the things in their hands, that person slowly opened his mouth. His voice was like the sound of ancient bells. It was slightly low, but there was a kind of deep and continuous pleasant to the ears. Yes. The palace servants heard and left in an orderly manner. After a while, the sound of splashing water could be heard. A head of black hair hung down from the back of his head. The ends of the hair fell into the water and slowly spread out, like a drop of ink falling on the surface of the water. Then it slowly spread out. That person cupped the water and splashed it on his face. Then he wiped it away with one hand. The water droplets slid down his bronze skin, rippling with an attractive luster. At this time, he closed his eyes as if he was enjoying this comfortable hot spring bath. His sculpted facial features were peerlessly handsome, but there was a faint arrogance between his eyebrows, as if he didn't put anything in his eyes. At this time, a figure silently appeared outside the screen. Then he half knelt and said, "Your Highness, I have something to report." The person bathing in the water slowly opened his eyes. Those deep blue eyes were as unfathomable as the sea. His voice was slightly raised, with a bit of cruelty and coldness. "Oh, about what?" "Sichuan, the King of England." The person behind the screen immediately replied. That person raised his eyebrows and then got up from the water. Water splashed everywhere, like a beauty coming out of the bath. The water droplets covered his body bit by bit, but it was as if they couldn't stand still. The droplets slid down one by one, leaving long trails of water on his strong forehead and bronze skin. From his cheeks to his neck, chest, lower abdomen, his long hair hung down, and the water droplets at the ends of his hair fell drop by drop. And the water just happened to submerge his body, covering all the places that made people daydream. His sexy body made people spurt blood. Step by step, he walked to the shore. Then with a stretch of his arm, the clothes that were placed on the chair by the shore flew over. Then, the wide clothes spread out like wings, draping over his bronze slender body. At this moment he had already jumped onto the shore. The clothes just happened to hang down, wrapping his entire body within. He stroked the long hair on his shoulders and then walked out. "Speak." He walked past the people kneeling on the ground and walked out of the hot spring room. When he reached the main seat in the hall, he sat down. That subordinate got up and followed behind him, then reported dutifully, "Your Highness, you've always asked us to pay attention to the Sichuan King of England's movements. Now, a subordinate who's closely monitoring the King of England's movements has sent a secret report that the person in charge of mining in the Fuli mountain range sent a secret letter to Xiao a few days ago. We don't know if he found anything. I've specially come to report and ask you to make a decision." Sichuan Emperor used the mining matter to send Xiao away in order to consolidate his position. This Xiao isn't stupid and knows how to retreat in the face of adversity. But this prince doesn't believe that he'll obediently be a sucker. Unless there's something in the Fuli mountain range that's attracting him, otherwise, if the Sichuan emperor turns hostile in the future, he'll just be a fish on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. The man curled his lips into a smile. Then what does your highness want to do? The subordinate asked doubtfully. This prince wants to personally make a trip to the Fuli mountain range. He said powerfully. He, Peng Huang, had long wanted to see that Sichuan god of war. Was this Sichuan god of war more powerful, or was his southern Song war god better? Chapter 570. Chu Qingyan woke up after a good night's sleep and realized that she felt much better. But when she turned around, she saw her mother sitting on a chair and looking at her worriedly. Seeing that she had woken up, she hurried over. Kai, how are you feeling? Mrs. Chu's mother was full of worry. She smiled and said, Mother, I feel much better. It's not that painful anymore, but I'm a little hungry. Xining, who was beside her, immediately went to the kitchen to heat up the food and bring it up. Mrs. Chu looked at her daughter, who had recovered, and heaved a sigh of relief. She said with some lingering fear in her voice, Today, your father told me that you had fainted from the pain. I was so scared that I rushed over to take a look. But you were already asleep at that time, so I waited for you to wake up. It's all in the past. Other than feeling a little uncomfortable, I'm fine. I just didn't expect my first time to hurt so much. Chu Qingyan rubbed her nose. She really felt bad for making her family worry. Mrs. Chu poked her finger and said, Why did you have to go through so much trouble? Mrs. Chu couldn't help but poke her daughter's forehead with her finger. Her voice was full of pity and disappointment. Who told you to go and see the dam in the heavy rain? You must have caught a cold. I've told you before to take good care of yourself during this period of time. Maybe your period will come. But you didn't listen to me and went on your own way. Just wait and see, the first time is very important. If it hurts, you will feel uncomfortable every month. You're asking for trouble. Although her mother was reprimanding her, she could hear the concern and heartache in her voice. She couldn't help but tilt her head and lean on her mother's shoulder. She said coquettishly, Mother, I was wrong. I won't do it next time. In the future, I'll treat your words like an imperial edict and obey them. Mrs. Chu really couldn't do anything about her obedient and coquettish daughter. Just then Xining came in with the food. Master, you should eat the food while it's still hot. Chu Qingyan rolled her eyes and looked at her mother, who was still sighing for her. She immediately softened her tone and said, Nyangqin, I don't have any strength. Can you feed your daughter? Chu Machen's mother couldn't help laughing when she saw her daughter, who was no longer a child, acting like a spoiled child and asking for food. However, her daughter had always been independent and self-reliant. As a mother, she had always been taken care of by her daughter. Now that she saw this side of her daughter, her motherly love overflowed. She said that her daughter wasn't shy and took the bowl and spoon from Chu Machen's hands. When Xining saw this scene, she couldn't help but cover her mouth and snicker, but she was glared at by her master. Nyangqin is so good. Chu Qingyan contentedly swallowed her first mouthful of porridge. Mrs. Chu smiled and shook her head, but she was very pleased with her daughter's praise. After finishing the bowl of porridge, Chu Qingyan still wanted more. Mrs. Xining wiped the water from the corner of her mouth with a handkerchief, and seemed to have thought of something. She turned to Xining and said, Go and boil a bowl of ginger water for Kai. Yes. Xining obeyed and left. When only the two of them were left in the room, Chu Qingyan looked at her mother with a smile. Nyangqin, you deliberately sent Xining away, didn't you? You mischievous girl. Mrs. Chu didn't deny it. She looked at her daughter, who was becoming more and more outstanding, and felt as if she was looking at herself when she was 15 or 16 years old. She felt a little emotional. Kai, do you know what it means when your period comes? Mrs. Chu looked at her with a serious expression. It was rare for her mother to be so serious. She thought that her mother wouldn't ask such a question for no reason. Hence, Chu Qingyan stopped smiling and started to think about the answer to this question. However, she rejected all the answers. Finally, she shook her head at her mother. When Mrs. Chu saw this, she reached out and stroked her long hair. She said earnestly, When your period comes, it means that our Kai has grown up and is no longer a little girl. When a girl reaches this stage, Her family can help her find a marriage partner. Then, with the help of her parents and a matchmaker, she can get married and raise her children. Chu Qingyan didn't expect her mother to be talking about this. She looked away unnaturally. Nyangqin, I'm only 15 years old. It's still too early for me to get married and have children. It's not early anymore. Usually, girls from other families are already married by this time. Your mother also married your father at this time. Mrs. Chu shook her head and explained. But I haven't had enough of being single. Although getting married and having children is a big thing in life, I still have to have enough fun and settle down before I consider this. Chu Qingyan didn't expect that she would one day discuss this with her mother. She remembered that when she was in university, her father, who was far away in the army, asked her to bring a son-in-law for him to see. Unfortunately, she had never been in a relationship and didn't know what it felt like to be in love with someone of the opposite sex. Hence, she was still very shy to talk about this now. Mrs. Chu also couldn't bear to part with her daughter. However, she smiled and patted her daughter's hand gently. She said lovingly, "But other girls still have to find a marriage partner. We don't have to. The Emperor Emeritus's betrothal is quite good. His Highness is a good child. Nyangqin is very relieved to hand you over to him. When you want to get married, let me know. I'll definitely arrange it properly for you." Chu Qingyan was in a daze. She didn't understand what her mother was saying at all. After a while, Mrs. Chu remembered that her husband was still playing with the kitten in the courtyard. She got up and let her have a good rest. Just as she was about to leave, Chu Qingyan heard a light sentence. His Highness waited for Kaikai for 5 years. It wasn't easy. Did she open her ears in the wrong way? Why did she hear such strange words? Big Ice Cube didn't have that kind of feelings for her, right? It was just the feelings a big brother had for a little sister. She recalled the words she heard under the windowsill last year. It completely darkened her world. She ran her fingers through her hair. She felt that this matter was making her a little irritable, so she simply turned her grief and anger into appetite. Xining, I want to eat spicy chicken, spicy fish, vinegar pork ribs, mapo tofu, sour and spicy shredded potatoes. She blurted out the names of dishes one after another. During menstruation, the body's functions were depleted quickly, and it was easy for her to get hungry. Moreover, she could eat a lot of things that she didn't dare to eat on normal days. Most importantly, she wouldn't gain weight. That was why she didn't care about anything else and ordered so many dishes. Xiao was just about to enter when he heard her order. His brows immediately furrowed. You have to avoid certain foods during this period. You can't eat anything spicy. When Chu Qingyan saw him, she was reminded of what happened last year. Coupled with the fact that she wasn't feeling well, she became angry all of a sudden. You don't want me to eat, so I'm going to eat more. Haven't you heard that even rabbits get angry when they're hungry? Chapter 571. Chu Qingyan's rebuke surprised Xiao a little. People in power were used to controlling everything, and his starting point was for her own good. Hearing her words, Xiao's face turned a little ugly. As soon as his face darkened, Chu Qingyan's face became a little embarrassed. She coughed lightly to cover up her unkind tone. I just want to eat these things. You have to take care of me, a patient. You're already an adult. Don't you know how to take care of yourself? Xiao walked in front of her and looked at her condescendingly. Chu Qingyan raised her head to look at him. She felt very oppressed like this, and the trace of grievance in her heart began to grow. I can take care of myself. You don't have to worry about me, she said a little angrily. Very few people dared to provoke him to his face. Just as Xiao was about to reprimand her, he saw her stubborn little face turn pale, and the trace of unhappiness in his heart immediately dissipated. He remembered that Chu Yunxing's father had specifically told him that women were usually more irritable, easily angered, and unreasonable during these few days, just like menopause. That was why he had given him the 6-syllable mantra, telling him to be more forgiving and obedient. Although he didn't know what menopause was, the symptoms that Father Chu had mentioned were indeed verified one by one on the little fellow. But he had been humiliated by the little fellow. At this time he wanted to speak to her nicely, but he couldn't bring himself to do so. However, when she lowered her head and looked so delicate, he really couldn't get angry at her. In the end, he could only compromise. If you want to eat those things, wait until you're better, then let the kitchen prepare them for you. Chu Qingyan thought that she had heard wrongly. She raised her head to look at him in disbelief. In the past, when she contradicted him, she was always reprimanded by him. When was there such good treatment as now? And he could even talk to her calmly. But I want to eat now. Chu Qingyan pursed her lips. When people were uncomfortable, they would be more clingy than before. They would become more sentimental and fragile. Xiao Su frowned, but at this moment he remembered Father Chu's 6-word mantra. Be more forgiving and more obedient. You can eat, but you can only choose one dish. Xiao Su gave in. Chu Qingyan immediately smiled. Okay, I want to eat spicy chicken. Yes. Everyone took a step back. This was how they had always gotten along. Coincidentally, Xining came in. Xiao Su told her to inform the kitchen, but told her to only prepare one dish a day. The rest of the dishes should be light and light. Although Chu Qingyan disagreed with Xiao Su's arrangement, a wise man submits to circumstances. If she resisted, everything would be ruined. Did anything happen today? Chu Qingyan held the hot water bottle and looked at him with her big wet eyes. Xiao Su had already sat down on the chair in front of her. When he heard her question, he reached out and smoothed out the creases on his knees. He said indifferently, "Take care of your body. I will take care of these things. I'm still your strategist. Don't separate public and private matters, okay?" Chu Qingyan was a little unhappy. All these years she had been by his side in men's clothing, acting as his strategist. So outside, they all knew his strategist, Chu Qingyan, but not Chu Qingyan. That was why she was on the 8 Great Handsome Men list. Thousand-Face Red Fox? This title was not bad. She was the scheming and quick-witted Chu Qingyan. Hearing her say this, Xiao Su remembered that he was going to Fuli mountain range in 2 days. She would find out sooner or later, so he did not hide the discovery of the special mine from her. So powerful? If this kind of mine can be mass-produced, then our killing power will be several times greater than before. Chu Qingyan could not help but exclaim. On the battlefield, a soldier's ability was very important. However, divine weapons could allow them to unleash their abilities to the extreme. It was like adding wings to a tiger. Then their fighting strength would greatly increase. Her eyes shone brightly, like a fox that had seen its prey. She was excited, and her appearance was very cute. Xiao Su saw this and could not help but smile. You can say that, but Luyu is not sure how many of these mines there are. This time, I plan to go and see for myself. Chu Qingyan could understand the importance of this mine to them. It was their current protective talisman. Sichuan Emperor did not know that he had accidentally given them a big gift, so not only did they have to keep it a secret, they also had to quickly mine it. Now time was life. How much they had now, how much they could use in the future would represent how much bargaining chips they had on the table. All right, I'll go with you. Chu Qingyan hugged the hot water bag and decided with a smile. However, she did not expect Xiao Su to reject her. No, the Fuli mountain range has a complicated terrain. Moreover, it intersects with several countries. It's not convenient to travel. You should stay in Lian City and help me look after my fief. Are you worried that I will become a burden to you? Right now, my strength is on par with Turin and Hualing. I have no problem protecting myself. These few years of hard work in martial arts was not for nothing. Chu Qingyan puffed up her cheeks and snorted. He had seen her hard work these few years. Other girls were still sleeping in the morning, but she had already woken up early to train. At night, other girls had already fallen asleep, but she was still in the study room reading military books. His training method for her was based on Shaolai's. He did not slack off or show her any mercy because of her special status. Fortunately, she had never disappointed him. I'm not worried that you will be a burden, but I need someone to look after my fief and deal with some urgent matters when I'm not around. Actually, he was worried that there might be some accidents along the way. It would be safer for her to stay in her fief, and he would be more at ease. It's all right. Don't we still have Mr. Rua and Lu Rue? I'll be more at ease if I leave it to them. Moreover, Haven't we already taken care of most of the matters related to the thief? Chu Qingyan tried to persuade him. Xiao Su watched as she racked her brains to think of a way to make him agree. After thinking for a moment, he asked, "Do you really want to go?" Chu Qingyan was still racking her brains to think of a reason. When she heard his question, she immediately nodded vigorously. "I want to. I haven't even been to the Fuli mountain range before. I want to go and experience it first." Xiao Su suddenly remembered that he had promised her a trip to Jiangnan. In the end, he did not fulfill his promise, and he felt a little guilty. If it were not for the unforeseen event that caused him to change his plans at the last minute, perhaps they would already be traveling around the great rivers and mountains. Unfortunately, plans could never keep up with changes. "All right, we'll set off in 3 days. Are you sure your body can take it?" Xiao Su was still a little worried. Chu Qingyan patted her chest and promised, "No problem. This is a small matter. I guarantee that I'll be full of energy and full of vitality in 3 days." Xiao Su was amused by her appearance and shook his head in laughter. 4 years of growth might have changed her appearance and height, but there were some things that could not be changed with the passage of time. That was her nature. Don't forget your original intentions, and stay true to yourself. Chapter 572. After deciding on the time to leave Lian City for Fuli mountain range, Chu Qingyan instructed Xining to prepare the necessary items for the trip. It would take at least 7 days to travel from Lian City to Fuli mountain range, so there were many necessary items to bring along. While Xining was tidying up the room, Chu Qingyan left the room and headed to Cheng Yanluo's garden. After a day's rest, she had regained her strength. Since she would be leaving Lian City for a period of time, she wanted to greet Yanluo. However, when she reached Cheng Yanluo's room and was about to knock on the door, she saw Cheng Yanluo packing. She forgot to knock on the door and went straight in. She asked in surprise, "Sister Yanluo, where are you going?" When Cheng Yanluo saw her, she continued what she was doing. "I'm going back to the medical center. Junior brother is sick. The season has changed recently and many people are sick. The medical center is too busy, so I have to go back." Chu Qingyan nodded and sat down on a chair. "When will you be back?" Cheng Yanluo paused and thought for a moment. "I'm not sure. I don't have any clue about your father's symptoms. The previous methods didn't work. When I go back, I'll check some medical books to see if there are any other methods." "Thank you for your hard work." Chu Qingyan thanked her sincerely. All these years, she had devoted herself to studying her father's illness. Although those methods didn't work, she had spent a lot of energy. "We're close friends, so why are you being so polite? If it weren't for you and His Highness, I'm afraid our medical center would have been unable to make ends meet." Their medical center wasn't established for the purpose of making a profit. They often provided free treatment and medicine to the people. It was all thanks to the support of Xiao Su and the little girl that they were able to survive these years. Therefore, the reason why she did her best to treat Chu Machen's father, and spent so many years staying here, was because they treated her as a good friend. Chu Qingyan chuckled. "Indeed, it's not our style to thank each other. By the way, do you need to bring anything to the medical center? Do you need financial, material, and manpower support?" Cheng Yanluo looked at her doubtfully. "I can understand financial and material support, but what the hell is manpower support? If you don't have enough people, we'll give you more." Chu Qingyan winked and giggled. "Who is it?" She had already guessed who it was. "Ethereal, our Xiao cavalry's #1 doctor. His hands are miraculous, and his medical skills are superb. He can bring the dead back to life, and he is also handsome and confident. What do you think of his skills?" Chu Qingyan strongly recommended. Cheng Yanluo rolled her eyes. "Cut it out." Chu Qingyan followed behind her, unwilling to give up. "You don't like this, but there are other advantages. For example, I'll wash your clothes and cook for you on the road, lead your horse and guard you, eat, drink and play. What about this?" Cheng Yanluo took a box of medicine from the cabinet and turned around to put it in her bag. She found her words funny. "I won't believe it even if you beat me to death. Morongju was such a proud person. Would he do this for a woman? He didn't do it in the past, So how could he do it now? Cheng Yanluo shook her head and tied a knot in her bag. She was almost done packing. When are you leaving? Seeing that she couldn't persuade her, Chu Qingyan gave up. She looked around her room and found that everything had been put away, so she asked. I can leave after lunch. Cheng Yanluo patted the bag on the table, thinking if there was anything else she hadn't brought with her. Okay, then I'll see you off in the afternoon. Chu Qingyan nodded. No, I'll be back in a while, so you don't have to see me off. Cheng Yanluo shook her head. Then she seemed to think of something. By the way, infectious diseases like the plague are prone to break out in spring. You should be careful. Chu Qingyan answered seriously. I'll remember. After lunch, Cheng Yanluo carried her bag and was about to walk out of the room. She looked down and saw a figure stretched out on the tiles by the sunlight. She stopped and slowly looked up. Ethereal was standing in front of her against the light. Are you coming to see me off? She asked in a relaxed tone with a smile. Ethereal's eyes fell on her face greedily. Her bright and beautiful face had a kind of natural elegance. When she smiled, there was a faint tranquility in her expression. No. He shook his head. Then, Cheng Yanluo was confused. If there was any improvement in their relationship over the past few years, it was that they were no longer strangers. They were just strangers in love. They greeted each other when they met, drank tea, and talked about medicine. They could face these things calmly. I'll go back with you, he replied seriously. Cheng Yanluo was stunned, but he didn't seem to be faking it. She couldn't help but smile. Go back with me? What can you do? I think my medical skills are not bad. I can help with the diagnosis and treatment. Ethereal looked into her eyes and said slowly. Cheng Yanluo raised her eyebrows. The medical center doesn't have that much business. I alone am enough. My junior brothers are here too. I can wash your clothes and cook for you on the way. I can lead the horse and guard you. I can eat, drink, and play. I can do whatever you want. What do you think? Ethereal smiled. He wasn't disheartened by her rejection just now. Why did these words sound so familiar to Cheng Yanluo? And she felt that he seemed to be flirting with her in a serious tone. Her face couldn't help but darken. No need. Thank you for your kindness. Cheng Yanluo threw the bundle in her hand over her shoulder and prepared to walk around him. But as soon as she took a step forward, another wall appeared in front of her, and it was a white and shiny human wall. What do you mean by this? Cheng Yanluo stood still, looking displeased. I'll go back with you. Recently, there have been a lot of robberies on the road. I'm worried. Ethereal looked defeated. Why didn't the young princess consort's methods work? Cheng Yanluo's expression changed from displeasure to seriousness. She raised her head and looked into his eyes. They were deep and unfathomable, like an ancient pool. A few years ago, there was a plague in Gao City. Although I don't know how it ended, I heard that your master will be going to Fuli mountain range in 2 days. He might pass by there. Ethereal froze on the spot. So, are you sure you still want to go with me? Initially, she still had some hope in her heart. But when she saw the struggle in his eyes, her hope was extinguished. I'll send someone to protect you. He lowered his eyebrows and said, There's no need. I've climbed the mountain in the middle of the night to gather herbs, and spent a night in a beast's den. What haven't I experienced? I've been alone for so many years. It's no big deal. Cheng Yanluo looked away when she said this. She felt her throat tighten. She didn't want to look at him anymore. She nodded at him, walked past him, and left the courtyard. 10 years ago, you left me because of your responsibilities. Can I still expect you to be like you 10 years later? Ethereal clenched the bundle on his shoulder. His eyes were filled with sorrow. I'm sorry, Xiao. Chapter 573. Chu Qingyan, who was standing in the corridor, saw the two of them brushing past each other. Her heart was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. She immediately walked in front of Ethereal and said resentfully, What are you standing there for? Hurry up and chase after them. But Ethereal's eyes were filled with hesitation. Aren't you and Master going to Fuli Mountain Range? This subordinate. There are no buts and no obligations. Your main task now is to chase after the person you want to chase. Your Highness isn't made of paper and won't get hurt so easily. If his safety requires you to sacrifice your happiness, I don't think he'll agree to it. Go, this is an order. Chu Qingyan couldn't bear to see him dilly-dallying, and immediately urged him to go. Ethereal nodded fiercely and immediately chased after them. Chu Qingyan watched Ethereal's departing figure and sighed in relief. You two have to work hard. In the blink of an eye, Chu Qingyan and Xiao Su were also about to set off. Lu Yu said in the letter that the ore needed more time to be studied, so they didn't need to be too anxious. Thus, Xiao Su planned to take Chu Qingyan to slowly tour the area and take a look at the changes in the fief and the people's situation. Because they didn't need to rush, Chu Qingyan and the others dressed up as visiting relatives. When they just set foot on the road, the continuous spring rain of March finally stopped and the sky cleared up. Chu Qingyan felt that her face was too eye-catching and was afraid of being recognized. So she put on the silver mask that Xiao Su used to wear. She wore a tight outfit and instantly transformed into a silver-masked youth. She felt that she was so handsome. However, Xining and the others didn't feel that way at all. This made her feel very frustrated. Chu Qingyan rode her horse and walked in the group, while Xiao Su wore a white curtain hat and sat in the carriage. Chu Qingyan became his follower, and he was the main person. However, Chu Qingyan didn't mind at all. The spring breeze in March was warm, and the weather was very warm. It was very suitable for traveling. As a matter of fact, not long after they left, they ran into two groups of people. Little brother, where are you going? One of them shouted loudly at Chu Qingyan. It seemed like she was treating her as the person in charge of their team. Chu Qingyan looked at this group of people. Although their clothes were not luxurious, they were not ordinary either. There were 2 carriages and 3 or 4 servants. She replied with a smile. Our young master wants to take advantage of the spring scenery to go out for a walk. He doesn't have any special plans to go anywhere. Where are you going? We're going to Li City to visit our family. Our madam and 2 young ladies are sitting inside. The person who shouted just now rode a horse to Chu Qingyan's side. Although he was in his 30s, he looked very simple and honest. Seeing that he was honest, Chu Qingyan couldn't help but nod. We will also pass by Li City. That's great. We can travel together and take care of each other. I heard that there will be a lot of bandits along the way. The more people we have, the more courage we will have. After Lu Shi finished speaking, he asked happily, My name is Lu Shi. How should I address you? Chu Qingyan readily replied. This one is Chu Qingyan. Lu Shi looked at the youth in front of him. Although he was wearing a mask, he gave people a very comfortable feeling. His temperament was very noble, and he was very approachable. He started chatting with him. Chu Qingyan found out from him that their master's surname was Lu, and he was a steward. This group of people was going to Li City to seek refuge with their master. Their master was working as an advisor in the county government of Li City this year. As soon as he settled down, he asked his madam to move the family to Li City. Chu Qingyan also found out that the master of the other group of people was surnamed Yang. They were going to Fu City and would also pass by Li City. However, Lu Shi expressed that he didn't know why they were going to Fu City. Because he vaguely felt that this group of people didn't seem to be very friendly, Lu Shi didn't ask for a snub. Lu Shi said a few words before he was called back by his master. Chu Qingyan could tell that compared to the lively Lu family, the Yang family was more silent. They were dressed gorgeously, and they also had 2 carriages with more than 10 guards. The carriages were very spacious, and she could vaguely hear the girls talking inside. Chu Qingyan thought that the people inside should also be women, but each of them had their chins slightly raised, as if they were very disdainful of the 2 groups of people beside them. However, this had nothing to do with her. In any case, this group of people was going on the road. It didn't matter if there were more people on the road. They didn't interfere with each other. After walking for an entire morning, because this road was in the middle of nowhere, they could only find a spacious place to rest and have lunch. Thus, the 3 groups of people coincidentally stopped at the roadside lawn. The people in the carriages also came out one after another. Because the 2 groups of people in front were walking at the front, Chu Qingyan saw the Lu family of 3, Madame Lu and the 2 young ladies. Madame Lu was wearing a Rui pattern dress. Her face was full of happiness, and her figure was a little plump. She looked to be in her 30s or 40s. Beside her were two young ladies. One of them was wearing a colorful flying flower dress. Her appearance was delicate and pretty. The other was wearing a standing water pattern dress. Her appearance was beautiful. The two young ladies were around 13 or 14 years old. Chu Qingyan's gaze fell on the other side. Madame Yang was wearing a white gauze dress. Her skin and figure were well maintained. She looked to be in her early 30s. Beside her was a young lady around 14 or 15 years old. That young lady was wearing a colorful 8-jewel standing water pattern dress. Her appearance was more outstanding than the two young ladies of the Liu family. Behind this young lady was a young lady with her head lowered. Her clothes were not as exquisite as the previous young lady. Her clothes were not old or new, and she looked a little timid. After observing, Chu Qingyan walked to the side of the carriage and waited for the people inside to get off. Thus, when Xiao lifted the curtain of the carriage, he saw a white wrist in front of him. He couldn't help but frown and look at her. He only heard her say, "The people outside all think that I am your servant. Why don't we put on a show until the end?" Xiao smiled and obediently put his hand on the back of her hand. Then they got off the carriage. Although they were the last to get off the carriage, Turin and the others had already led the carriage to the side and tied it up. The ground was also covered with a thick layer of cloth. In order to avoid being too conspicuous, they didn't take out the folding chairs and tables. Instead, they took out the dry food that they had prepared this morning. So when the other two groups of people sat down, Chu Qingyan and the others had already started eating lunch. Chu Qingyan chewed on a sesame seed cake. Out of the corner of her eyes, she saw that the Yang family took out a few delicately made food boxes. Then she took out the pastries from the boxes. It could be seen that they were all food that looked good. Chu Qingyan politely declined the food that Lu Shi sent over. She smiled and said that she had brought a lot. Halfway through lunch, the young lady of the Yang family said something to Madame Yang. Madame Yang looked at Chu Qingyan and the others. Then she called her bodyguard and said something. Then the bodyguard walked towards Chu Qingyan and the others. Chapter 574. That guard walked straight in front of Xiao, his tone carrying a bit of arrogance as he said, "We are the Yang family of Father City. Our madam heard that you will be passing through Li City, and since it's on the way, why don't we travel together? If we meet any bandits, we can take care of each other." Chu Qingyan blinked as she looked at that guard. Who gave him the guts to actually bypass her, the manager, and directly look for her family's big ice block? If her family's big ice block froze someone to death, she wouldn't be responsible. After that guard finished speaking, he found that the person in front of him didn't pay any attention to him at all, and just continued to sip his tea. The guard was a bit impatient. Their madam had sent him over to inquire, which meant that she thought highly of them, but he didn't expect that he would receive this kind of treatment. Just as he was about to make a sarcastic remark, the person who was immersed in his tea slowly raised his head. Although he was wearing a veil, he could faintly feel the sharp gaze under the white veil. That guard couldn't help but take a step back. Even if the person in front of him was sitting and he obviously had the advantage when he was standing, he still felt that he was a bit shorter. Chu Qingyan saw that the bodyguard had been defeated by the big block of ice, so she slowly walked over. This big brother, since it's on the way, traveling together isn't a bad idea. This one will agree on behalf of our young master, but our young master doesn't care about matters. If there's anything in the future, you can directly communicate with this one. Chu Qingyan held back her laughter and expressed her goodwill. Since they were in the same line of work, it was always good to have one more friend. That guard saw that Chu Qingyan gave him a way out and immediately stepped down, but his tone carried a bit of anger. "If there's any trouble that you can't solve, you can look for our Yang family. Goodbye." After saying that, without waiting for Chu Qingyan's response, that guard left in high spirits. "Like servant, like master, like master. It's fine if we don't make friends with this Yang family," Turin said from the side. "That's right, it seems like we have to go up and trouble them. Do we look so weak that we can be bullied at will?" Hualing pretended to be weak as he twisted his body, speaking in a very disgusted manner. Chu Qingyan was amused by the words of these two people. Turin and Huoling's words were indeed reasonable. Just now, the Yang family had sent a guard to contact them. It should have been because they saw Turin and the others' strong bodies, quick work, and well-trained training. They thought of the dangers along the way, so they took the initiative to speak. However, that guard's face was filled with contempt, making people unable to get close to the Yang family. The Lu family was more pleasing to the eye, so Chu Qingyan asked Jin Xian to send some Rujiamos to the Lu family. Reciprocity was the only way to maintain a lasting relationship. After the items were delivered, Lu Shibian came over to express his gratitude. Little brother Chu, my family's madam and young lady asked me to come and thank you. They said the Rujiamo was delicious. Thank you for your kindness, Lu Shi said with a silly smile. Chu Qingyan waved his hand. It's good that you like it, there's no need to be polite. With 3 groups of people traveling together, Chu Qingyan only sent things to the Lu family, and didn't give anything to the Yang family. When the Yang family saw this difference in treatment, their faces became ugly. Chu Qingyan rubbed his nose. Look at how you guys are eating so delicately. How could you look down on our crude Rujiamos? However, Chu Qingyan had seen many people like this before. They felt that their presence was too strong, like they would be cheered and applauded when they walked on the road. That's right, you guys keep talking about bandits. What is that about? Although Chu Qingyan had never taken this matter to heart, when she heard the Lu family and the Yang family mention it, she couldn't help but take it seriously. When Lu Shi heard her question, he explained, "This road has never been peaceful to begin with. In the past, there was no one to manage it, so the people who did not have a good harvest and could not afford to pay taxes formed factions and became bandits. I heard that 7 years ago, these people even robbed official silver. In the past 2 years, these people have become even bolder. In broad daylight, they even dare to come out and kidnap passing merchants and passers-by. This humble one heard that a month ago, a family was kidnapped and murdered on the road ahead. Even a 3-year-old child was not spared. Not only did they rob money, but they also took women. All the pretty girls were kidnapped and brought to the mountain stronghold." Lu Shi sighed. So this time, my family's madam had no choice but to hire a few guards, hoping that they can pass through this road safely. Chu Qingyan heard Lu Shi's words and frowned deeply. The authorities don't care? Why would the authorities care about this? Rumor has it that the officials are colluding with the bandits. Who knows? Lu Shi shook his head, looking resigned to his fate. After Lu Shi left, Chu Qingyan returned to Xiao Su's side and repeated Lu Shi's words. Then she said, "Big Ice Cube, why didn't we know about this?" None of the subordinates reported it either. The area from Lianqing to Fuli mountain range is vast but sparsely populated. The land is barren and there isn't much harvest. So the imperial court rarely spends their energy here. When I came here, those officials thought that I was sent here because I lost my power, so they didn't take me seriously. It's not impossible that they neglected their duties, didn't report what they knew, or colluded with the bandits. Xiao Su's tone was indifferent. The people he brought with him had basically been on the battlefield. They were still lacking in political management, so there were these loopholes. Then what should we do now? Chu Qingyan understood the meaning in his words. It was as if a tiger that had fallen to the plains would be bullied by dogs. Regardless of whether or not these local officials were colluding with the bandits, it was a fact that they didn't take Big Ice Cube, the king of the fief, seriously. Let's wait and see. If we encounter any bandits, we'll deal with them. We'll deal with them when we reach Li City. Xiao Su pointed at the Rujiamo in front of him, indicating for her to eat. Chu Qingyan nodded, took the Rujiamo, and put it in her mouth. In fact, she very much hoped to encounter these bandits. Then, she could take care of them in one fell swoop to prevent future trouble for the people. After lunch and a short rest, the 3 groups set off at the same time. Because Chu Qingyan's group was relatively close to the Lu families, Lu Shi came over again. Chu Qingyan felt that this person was quite talkative and as honest as his name, so she started chatting with him. After Lu Shi talked about a few interesting things about the farmers, he suddenly spoke in a small voice. Little brother Chu, your family's young master seems to be a man of few words and doesn't seem easy to get along with, but his temperament is very good. He seems like the young master of an influential family. Lu Shi rubbed his head as he spoke honestly. Chu Qingyan smiled when she heard this. He really doesn't talk much, but he isn't hard to get along with. Her family's big ice cube was a bit quiet, but that depended on the person. If it was her, he wouldn't stop talking once he started lecturing her. At this time, Turin suddenly came over to say that his master was looking for her. Chu Qingyan nodded to Lu Shi before riding her horse back to the carriage. She asked, "What is it, big ice cube?" "Stay by the carriage. Don't keep talking to unimportant people." The person in the carriage spoke in a somewhat depressed tone. Chu Qingyan tilted her head to look at Hualing in confusion. What was with His Highness? Hualing spread his hands. He might be jealous. That shouldn't be possible. Lu Shi was old enough to be her father. Moreover, she was dressed as a man, all right? She didn't understand Big Ice Cube's world. Chapter 575. The road ahead was rather uneven. The Lu clan and the Yang clan moved slowly. However, even though Chu Qingyan and company were dressed in low-key attire for this trip, their carriages were simple and unflashy. Traveling on these roads was as easy as walking on flat ground. The Lu family was barely able to maintain their speed, but the Yang family slowly fell behind. When they rested for the first time in the afternoon, the Yang family sent people over. They first went to the Lu family, and then came to Chu Qingyan's side. Perhaps it was because they had suffered in front of Xiao Su before, so the guard came to find Chu Qingyan. Because our three masters are all women and can't handle the bumps, I hope everyone can match our speed. After all, it will be safer for you to travel with us. Towards the Yang family's guards in politeness, it was as if others should accommodate them. This made Chu Qingyan knit her brows a bit, but seeing the Lu family agree, she did not refuse. If they did encounter bandits along the way, then they had to protect the safety of the citizens. Seeing such rude people, my hands are a bit itchy. Hualing pressed his fingers together, and the sound of slapping rang out. Turin looked at him. Restrain yourself a bit, a little impatience will spoil great plans. We'll deal with them later, Hualing said with a snort. Matching the rhythm of the other two groups, Chu Qingyan's group also slowly slowed down. The three groups walked into the evening without any danger. Everyone stopped to rest in a forest. The three bonfires were quickly lit. Hualing and the others had a clear division of labor. Hualing led people to hunt and Turin led people to set up camp. The Lu family and Yang family saw that these people were well trained and did things in an orderly manner. They didn't need any instructions from their masters to know what to do. So the masters of the two families were filled with envy. Very quickly, Hualing came out with a pheasant in one hand and a rabbit in the other. The subordinates behind him also caught a few fish. There is a river behind us. We're quite lucky, there are quite a few fish. Hualing smiled as he walked over. The prey had already been processed and could be roasted over the fire. This time, Chu Qingyan had asked Xining to bring a lot of seasonings, which came in handy at this time. When Turin and the others were on the battlefield, they often roasted animals outside. But after all, they just wanted to fill their stomachs. They didn't care about quality, so Chu Qingyan and Xining took over the task of roasting animals. The aroma of the meat wafted far and wide. The Lu and Yang families ate the food brought out by their own families, and they felt that their mouths had no taste. Seeing this, the young miss of the Yang family couldn't take it anymore, and ordered her family's guards to go into the forest to hunt. Unfortunately, these guards didn't know how to hunt, but they couldn't disobey their master's orders and could only bitterly laugh as they entered the forest. After Chu Qingyan finished roasting, she placed the fattest rabbit leg and pheasant leg on a plate, and had Hualing deliver it to Xiao Su. Then she cut a few pieces and had people deliver them to the Lu and Yang families. The Lu family happily accepted it, and even sent people to thank them. However, the Yang family arrogantly rejected them, saying that their guards had already gone in to hunt. They would be able to catch some prey later, and would also give them some roasted meat. Since they didn't want it, Chu Qingyan did not force them. She happily enjoyed their dinner. After an hour, the Yang family's guards came back, But it was a pity that their hands were empty. When the Yang family's young Miss Yang Yuhuan saw this, she remembered what she had said in front of Chu Qingyan's group. She instantly felt that her face was a bit ugly, and she immediately reprimanded the guards. Those guards were very helpless. They did not know where the prey came from. They searched the entire forest, but other than birds, they could not find anything else. Hearing the Yang family's young miss reprimand, Chu Qingyan smiled. She bit the wing in front of her and ate it with relish. Suddenly, the chicken neck on her plate disappeared and was replaced by a drumstick. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but look at the hand that had yet to be retracted. The firelight kept changing shapes, and when it shone on the white veil, there was a strange gentleness to it. Although she couldn't see his expression clearly, Chu Qingyan's heart was filled with warmth. "Thank you." She picked up the big drumstick and took a big bite. No one saw that under the veil, the thin lips revealed a gentle smile. After eating and drinking to her heart's content, Chu Qingyan stood up to check on the situation of the guards and took a walk. Walking to the intersection with the Yang family, Chu Qingyan suddenly heard Yang Yuhuan scolding another young miss of the Yang family. It seemed that Yang Yuhuan was the elder sister. "Xiaohuan, are you deaf? This young miss told you to get warm water. Why are you pouring hot water for this young miss? Are you trying to burn this young miss to death?" "Elder sister, I'll go add some cold water for you." That weak young Xiaohuan immediately picked up the basin and walked to the side. Her steps were unsteady, looking as if she could not stand up to the wind. Lucia followed her line of sight and saw this scene. He could not help but walk to her side and whisper, "I heard that this is the Yang family's legitimate eldest young miss, and that is the Yang family's concubine's second young miss. On the way here, I've seen Yang family's eldest young miss ordering the Yang second young miss around." Chu Qingyan nodded. In ancient times, the difference between the status of a legal wife and a concubine was not just a little bit, and the distinction between legitimate and concubine was even more clear. This was related to the inheritance of property and bloodline. However, this Yang family's eldest young miss was too overbearing. She had a servant girl by her side, but did not order her around. Instead, she loved to torment this concubine's younger sister. It seemed that she was not very broad-minded, but this was other people's family matter. Chu Qingyan did not pay much attention to it. Just as she was about to turn around and go back to rest. At this time, Yang Xiaohuan, who was holding a basin of water and walking over shakily, suddenly lost her footing and almost fell down. Chu Qingyan raised her eyebrows. With one hand, she quickly caught the basin of water that was flying in the air. Then, she spun around and landed to support Yang Xiaohuan's arm. Using her strength to support her body, she did not forget that she was currently a man, so when Yang Xiaohuan steadied herself, she immediately let go of her hand and retreated to a safe distance. Then, she placed the basin of water in her hand in front of Yang Xiaohuan. "Miss, please be careful when you walk." Everything happened in a flash. Everyone only saw a blur in front of their eyes, and the two people were already standing there steadily. Yang Xiaohuan looked at the man in the silver mask in front of her, and suddenly felt that her eyes were dazzling. She immediately lowered her head and reached out to take the basin of water. She stammered, Thank you, young master." "It's nothing. Quickly go back, otherwise the water will turn cold." Chu Qingyan waved her hand carelessly, and then quickly returned to her own camp. She walked quickly and did not see Yang Xiaohuan's adoring gaze as she looked at her back. But just because she did not see it, it did not mean that no one else saw it. Xiao Su snorted coldly and muttered in his heart, "How could one moment be an uncle and the next moment be a young lady? How many people did this little guy provoke?" At this time, Chu Qingyan did not know about this. She looked around and pondered in her heart. The moonless and windy night was the best time to kill and rob. If there were really bandits, they would not let go of such a good opportunity today. About the little madman and little Qing, many people wanted to know what happened to this couple, and now it was time to unravel the mystery. After the incident in the Shang Kingdom's palace, Dugu Qing hugged Yi Lingfeng's body and cried. When Cheng Yanluo received the news of Yi Lingfeng's assassination, she immediately rushed to the Shang Imperial Palace. When she arrived at the main hall, she saw Dugu Qing, who was in a daze, and Yi Lingfeng, whose eyes were tightly shut. Cheng Yanluo's mouth twitched. Little Qing, let go of young Master Yi first. Otherwise he can't breathe like this. I won't. What? He's still alive? Du Guqing blinked and looked at Cheng Yanluo innocently. Yes, put him down quickly. Otherwise, even if the Daluo immortals arrive, they won't be able to save him. Cheng Yanluo squatted down and opened her medicine box. Du Guqing immediately let go of Yi Lingfeng and squatted aside, looking at the person on the ground nervously. He lost too much blood. He's lucky. The dagger sank into his back, but it didn't hurt his vitals. It has something to do with the position of his heart. It saved his life at the critical moment. Cheng Yanluo checked and began to stop Yi Lingfeng's bleeding. Du Guqing took a deep breath. She was scared to death. But whether he can wake up or not depends on fate. Cheng Yanluo's words successfully made Du Guqing's heart hang in suspense. Lingfeng, I will definitely let you live. Du Guqing reached out to hold his hand, and said firmly in her heart. 7 days passed in the blink of an eye. Du Guqing had already woken up. He took over the political affairs of his royal sister, and began to take care of them. Du Guqing didn't have to dress up as a man anymore. However, she stayed in the palace all day long, taking care of Yi Lingfeng tirelessly. Yi Lingfeng was unconscious for several days, but there were still no signs of him waking up. Du Guqing was so anxious that she couldn't eat or sleep well. One day, Du Guqing entered the palace and saw his royal sister wiping Yi Lingfeng's cheeks. He was instantly jealous. Royal sister, you haven't been so gentle with me in a long time. I object. Du Guqing sat down at the side, looking very unhappy. Du Guqing glanced at him. Are you saying that I'm usually very fierce? Du Guqing choked. He didn't say that. However, his royal sister did look very fierce at this moment. Once this person is cured, send him away. He doesn't have a legitimate status. It's bad for your reputation if he sleeps in your palace. Du Guqing seemed to have found an excuse and immediately raised his voice. Royal brother, can you not be so childish? He's still injured. Du Guqing felt that her royal brother, who was so steady in front of outsiders, was always acting like a little brat in front of her. Du Guqing snorted. Now you're scolding me because of him. Who knows what you'll do to me in the future? No, to get rid of future troubles, I have to send him away. Scold him? Childish. Her royal brother was indeed childish. Little Qing can't bear to. A voice suddenly sounded between the two. Who says she can't bear to? She can't bear to part with her brother. Du Guqing immediately retorted. However, the moment he said that, the two froze. The siblings turned to look at the person on the bed at the same time. They saw the person on the bed blinking his peach blossom eyes and smiling evilly. Du Guqing was pleasantly surprised. She then reached out to hold his hand, unable to speak. Du Guqing was happy at first, but when he saw his royal sister's excited look, he became unhappy again. Yi Lingfeng, once you're cured, immediately return to your Jiang country. Your Highness Crown Prince, I'm your brother-in-law. Be good, call me brother-in-law. Yi Lingfeng acted like he didn't hear his unfriendliness, and spoke to him like he was coaxing a child. Du Guqing's face instantly turned green. When he saw his royal sister wholeheartedly focused on Yi Lingfeng, he suddenly felt like his own cabbage had been eaten by a pig. He stood up abruptly and left in a huff, not caring about the two anymore. The big light bulb finally left. Yi Lingfeng breathed a sigh of relief, and turned his gaze to the person in front of him. Looking at her haggard appearance, if someone didn't know better, they would think that she was the one who was injured. Yi Lingfeng said emotionally, Little Qing, I'm still alive. I'm not dead. I have eyes to see. I don't need you to explain. Du Guqing suddenly stopped crying and looked at him calmly. Yi Lingfeng looked at her with a gentle expression. Little Qing, I know I've made you sad. Can you give me a chance? But you've rejected me so many times before. Do you think I'll give you a chance so easily? Du Guqing raised her brows and looked at him. Then you can get it back from me with interest. He curled his lips. With interest? Du Guqing rubbed her chin and narrowed her eyes. You've rejected me 72 times in this half a year. With interest, I'll count it as 100 times. So if you don't confess to me 100 times for me to reject, then there's nothing to talk about. She wouldn't let him get away with it so easily. Looking at the swaying finger in front of him, Yi Lingfeng couldn't help but facepalm. Why did he provoke such a fussy girl in the first place? Forget it, since I've chosen, I'll just accept it. Isn't it just 100 times of expressing my feelings? If I don't believe it, could it be that I'm an expert in love? But before that, I'll steal a kiss first. If the feelings were still there, even if they went around in circles, they would still meet again. Chapter 576. Turan and Hualing were responsible for taking turns to guard. Xiao Su and Chu Qingyan had already entered their respective tents to rest. Although it was already spring, the night in the forest was still very cold. Chu Qingyan wrapped the blanket tightly around herself. She was on high alert, not daring to fall asleep. In the other tent, Xiao Su opened his eyes and looked up. He could already hear the little fellow's shallow breathing. He couldn't help but recall the past. Back then, she didn't dare to sleep alone and climbed into his tent. Now that she was outside, she dared to bear it alone and didn't stick to him like before. This kind of feeling was somewhat gratifying, but also somewhat unpleasant. Clearly, watching the little fellow grow up was something he had always wanted to do in the past. But now that the little fellow had grown up, he fell into a kind of daze where he didn't know what to do next. He had always had a plan for his life, but it didn't work when it came to the little fellow. This kind of feeling made Xiao Su feel somewhat unfamiliar. It was as if something was excluded from his plan, which made him very unhappy. In the dead of night, from far to near, a series of footsteps quickly approached. Xiao Su put away his thoughts and narrowed his eyes. Chu Qingyan, who had just fallen asleep, was a very light sleeper. When she heard the movement, she immediately got up. Although there were many people coming and they were all martial artists, Chu Qingyan and the others still noticed their movements. Little Gongzi, they're here. Hualing's voice sounded from the tent. And everyone act according to the plan. Quietly wake up Lu Shi and the others. Chu Qingyan said to Hualing across the tent. She could feel that the Lu and Yang families were still in a deep sleep. Although waking them up wouldn't have much of a deterrent effect on the bandits, because the bandits knew that the three groups had a lot of people and still dared to make a move, it proved that they weren't timid. However, it was still to prevent the Lu and Yang families from panicking. This road was opened by me. These trees were planted by me. If you want to pass this road, pay the toll. A fair and graceful lady is a good match for a gentleman. There's a good man here. Miss Stay. Chu Qingyan was about to step out of the tent when she heard those two rude words. She stumbled a little as she tried to leave the tent. Hooligans were actually not scary. What was scary was that hooligans were cultured. Although the last sentence wasn't very neat, it was still difficult for these uneducated people. At this time, the Lu and Yang family were already in a mess when the other party appeared. The women hugged each other and cried, while the guards trembled with fear as they held their swords and faced the burly men in front of them. Chu Qingyan walked out of the tent and squinted at the people in front of her. 30 to 40 strong men surrounded the three groups of people in a circle, holding large swords in their hands. The thugs all looked cold and emotionless, and the few people in the lead had peachy expressions. They kept looking at the ladies of the Lu and Yang families, causing the ladies to quickly hide behind their own families. Their bodies trembled and they looked pitiful, satisfying the self-satisfaction of these bandits. Chu Qingyan sized up these people. They didn't seem to be afraid of their faces being exposed at all. None of them covered their faces and openly revealed their true appearances. Chu Qingyan thought to herself, are these people really bold and fearless, or are they fearless? One of the men with two scars on his face said, you all know the rules of the underworld. Put down your weapons. Then the women will stand on one side and the men on the other. Put your belongings in the middle. Kill anyone who resists. Don't even think about it. One of the Yang family's guards said angrily. But in the next moment, one of the bandits standing beside them raised his large sword and slashed down. Just as the guard finished speaking, his head fell off and blood splattered all over the ground. Ah! The screams of the women rose and fell. The timid people present were so scared that their legs turned to jelly. As if they were used to the helpless screams of the prisoners, the bandits each revealed a sinister smile, and then gave the order to start the robbery. Immediately, cries and pleas for mercy rang out. "Stop! Who gave you the courage to disregard human lives and disregard the law?" Chu Qingyan stood up and looked coldly at the few men in the lead. "Yo, there are still people who stand up for injustice? Arrogant brat who is still wet behind the ears. Are you still unable to see your situation clearly? Put down your weapons obediently, and I'll let you die a quick death later." The 2 scars on the man's face pointed the large sword in his hand at Chu Qingyan, his face full of disdain. He felt that this bean sprout-like figure was not enough for him to pinch with 2 fingers. Chu Qingyan sneered and didn't waste any more words with them. She immediately ordered, "Do it, capture them alive." "Yes." Hua Ling, who was standing behind her, led people to kill the bandits in all directions. Chu Qingyan pulled out her soft sword and jumped in front of the 2 scars on the man's face. Her sword was sharp and she didn't show any mercy. The man immediately took 2 steps back and raised his sword to block. This unforeseen event caught everyone a little off guard. No one thought that Chu Qingyan and the others would take the initiative to attack, and they were so aggressive too. Each family's guards protect your masters well. Chu Qingyan took the time to warn them because she found that these people were all stunned in place. If it wasn't for the fact that they were fighting, she would have facepalmed inside. Chu Qingyan's words made everyone come back to their senses, and they immediately gathered together. At this time, they saw a quiet place and it was very abrupt. That was Chu Qingyan's master. She usually didn't come out of the carriage, and she was currently wearing a gauze hat with several guards following her. These people were all very tall and powerful. They were all dressed in black and had a fierce aura around them. Although the person in the lead was wearing a gauze hat, she had a kind of powerful aura that even the white gauze couldn't hide. Just standing there, she had a kind of casual and domineering aura. In this chaotic battle, this person's surroundings seemed to have become the safest place, and those bandits didn't dare to rashly approach him. Thus, everyone ran and crawled to his side, and those bandits who were chasing after him were all defeated by the mysterious man's guards as expected. Yang Yuhuan originally looked down on this group of people because from their clothes and carriage, they didn't seem to be from a large family. She had never placed these kind of poor people in her eyes. But she didn't know why, in this chaotic moment of life and death, this person stood there as if he was the only one in the world who was supreme and aloof from the world, making her unable to shift her gaze away. It was as if he was the only one shining in the whole world, and everyone else was dim. Xiao Su felt that this somewhat irksome gaze, but he was already used to it. He couldn't take his eyes off the little fellow who was swimming around in the crowd. At this time, a gust of night wind blew and inadvertently blew up the white gauze under the gauze hat. Yang Yuhuan secretly stared at him at this time, and just happened to see that white gauze lifted up, revealing that exquisite and perfect side profile. He was like a celestial being and she was immediately stunned. Chapter 577. Ah! Suddenly a scream exploded in Chu Qingyan's ears. She turned around and saw a wretched bandit reaching out to grab Yang Xiaohuan, and there was no one around her to protect her. Chu Qingyan did not hesitate and waved away the broadsword in front of her. She jumped in front of Yang Xiaohuan and kicked away the bandit's hand. Then, with a shoulder throw, the bandit was fiercely thrown to the ground by Chu Qingyan. Soon after, he was pressed down by Xiao Lai with his sword, unable to move. At this time, Chu Qingyan turned around to look at Yang Xiaohuan, her thin shoulders trembling. "Miss Yang, are you all right?" The petite person raised her head in a panic, her eyes filled with fear. When she saw that the person standing in front of her was the silver-masked youth, and not that terrifying bad guy, she immediately heaved a sigh of relief, and then suddenly fell down. Chu Qingyan was caught off guard and immediately reached out to support her. She found that she had only fainted and was not injured, so she called over a servant of the Yang family to help her away, and then continued to join in the fight. Although these bandits looked valiant and strong, their strength was not proportional to their appearance. In other words, they did not encounter the unarmed civilians of the past, but the fierce cavalry that had experienced hundreds of battles. Therefore they were quickly defeated. 30 to 40 bandits did not escape the net and were all captured. Chu Qingyan kept her sword, and then walked back to Xiao Su's side. When she passed by Yang Yuhuan, Chu Qingyan saw that her gaze was fixed on her big ice block and suddenly felt strange. But she did not think too much about it and said to the big ice block, "They've been captured. And let's go and take a look." Xiao Su brought people over. "Who are you people? Don't you know my name, Tiger Wang's name? If you know what's good for you, quickly let us go and then take out all your belongings. I will let bygones be bygones." It was the man with the 2 knife scars who shouted. Xiao Lai kicked over, and the man who called himself Tiger Wang quieted down. But when Xiao Su walked in front of them, Tiger Wang started again. "Which Dao do you belong to? Don't you know my relationship with Lord Wang?" Tiger Wang was not willing to give up. He felt that these people were not dressed as luxuriously as the Yang family, so they definitely did not have any status. He was only able to capture them because of his good movement skills. If these people knew his identity, they would definitely piss their pants in terror. "Which road are we on?" "Turin, this man is asking where we are from. How should we answer?" Huo Ling couldn't help but laugh when he heard this. This was his first time seeing such a muddle-headed person. She had already become someone else's prisoner, yet she still had the guts to shout at them. "We are on the official road." Turin couldn't help but say. Wang Laohu was confused. "On the official road? Is this a new one? Why haven't I heard of it?" 7-star kicked Big Dipper. "Our master is here. Watch your mouth." These people didn't seem to be threatened by him, so Tiger Wang restrained himself. He settled for the next best thing and turned to negotiate with Xiao Su. "Brothers, no discord, no concord. Let us go, and we'll split the silver we've collected with you 50-50. How about it? It's not easy to make a living." As soon as Tiger Wang finished speaking, the lackeys tied up behind him immediately nodded in agreement, completely losing their arrogance from before. Xiao Su ignored his words and asked with a cold gaze, "Who is Lord Wang?" When Wang Laohu saw that he had taken the initiative to ask, he thought that he was afraid. He immediately straightened his back and said proudly, "Lord Wang is the highest-ranking official in Li City. Magistrate of Li City, are you afraid?" Chu Qingyan was really worried about this bandit leader's IQ. He still didn't forget to brag, even when he was about to die. Li City's magistrate, Wang Geng, has been in office for 6 years. He's in charge of managing Li City and the surrounding towns, Turin reported to his master. Xiao Su nodded and continued to look at Tiger Wang. "What's your relationship with him?" Tiger Wang chuckled. "He's my younger brother. What do you think our relationship is?" Xiao Su narrowed his eyes. "I see. Turin, take these people away and eradicate the mountain stronghold. Arrest everyone involved and hand them over to Lu Rue. Give him full authority to deal with them. This prince doesn't want these parasites who helped the tyrant to live in this prince's fiefdom." "Yes." Turin accepted the order and directed his men to take the bandits away one by one. "This prince? Fiefdom?" Wang Laohu immediately collapsed to the ground. Could it be that this person was His Highness Prince Ying who had lost his power? He really stepped on the Hades Lord. After the bandits were taken away, the forest regained its tranquility. However, the sound of sobbing and whimpering could still be heard. It seemed that these womenfolk were really frightened. After the bandits were taken away, a space was cleared in front of Chu Qingyan. The Lu and Yang families immediately supported each other as they walked over, their faces still showing lingering fear. "Little brother Chu, you guys are really amazing. You immediately arrested these heinous bandits who helped the tyrant do evil. Sure enough, it was the right choice to team up with you." Lu Shi walked over, his words full of admiration. As soon as Lu Shi walked over, the two families expressed their gratitude and praise. Chu Qingyan smiled. "Uncle Lu is too kind. Then where are you taking these people?" The Yang family guard who came to negotiate with Chu Qingyan before asked. "We'll hand them over to the authorities. They'll make the decision. A country has its laws and a family has its rules. We commoners can't punish them in private," Chu Qingyan replied. At this time, Huo Ling walked over with medicine in his hand. he said to everyone. If anyone here is injured, you can bring this one here to get some medicine and bandages. Treat them a bit, and wait until we reach Li City before going to the medical hall for treatment. Huo Ling's words attracted the attention of most people. In the fight just now, other than Xiao Liqi who wasn't injured, the two families' guards were more or less lightly injured, so everyone began to busy themselves. Chu Qingyan saw that everyone was busy and prepared to return to her team. At this time, a soft female voice sounded in Chu Qingyan's ears. This little brother, this little girl wants to personally thank your young master. Can you introduce me? Chu Qingyan turned around and saw that it was the Yang family's first daughter, Yang Yuhuan. She couldn't help but raise her eyebrows. Didn't this person always disdain to be with them? Why did she suddenly take the initiative? However, Chu Qingyan still politely declined. It's just a small matter, not worth mentioning. It's late at night, and the dew is heavy. Miss should go back and rest early. When Yang Yuhuan heard her words, her expression changed slightly. She had a gentle appearance just now, but now she raised her chin slightly and had a domineering look. You're just a servant and didn't ask your master. What right do you have to answer for him? In this young lady's opinion, you should go and report to your master before replying to this young lady. Chu Qingyan raised her eyebrows. Yo, this person's tone wasn't small. Chapter 578. Chu Qingyan crossed her arms and looked at her. Miss Yang, if you want to thank me, then you don't have to. Ha, it's not up to you to interfere in the matters between me and your master. Yang Yuhuan felt that this person was just a little bitch. If she was in the Yang family, who would dare to disobey her? Qinghua and Cicada were cleaning up the place. They heard the conversation between the two and couldn't help but look at each other. This girl from the Yang family was quite bold. She actually dared to pluck hair from their little princess consort's head? Did she want to make things difficult for them? So Qinghua and Cicada walked forward. Qinghua coughed softly and said, Young master, how should the guards set up the defense? Cicada continued, a tent was damaged during the fight just now. I'm afraid that young master will have to go to the carriage to rest later. Chu Qingyan looked at the two. It seemed a little strange that they came over to report this at this time, because this could be directly handed over to Turin. However, when she saw the two people winking at Yang Yuhuan with their backs to her, Chu Qingyan, who had been in tacit understanding for many years, immediately understood their meaning. They were trying to get back at her for her sake. It was difficult for these two straightforward people to think of this method. It was much better than their previous straightforward approach. Chu Qingyan was amused by their quick-wittedness, but she still answered them dutifully with a straight face. After they left, Chu Qingyan looked at Yang Yuhuan again. Yang Yuhuan was originally disdainful of this person, but when she heard her subordinate's respectful attitude towards her, her expression turned ugly and a little embarrassed. This was what Qinghua and Cicada wanted to achieve. Look, the person you look down on has a very high status in our place. You little brat, go back to where you want to cool off. Wait for the little princess consort to counterattack. Since it's inconvenient for your master, then. Yang Yuhuan wanted to retreat. Chu Qingyan raised her hand to stop her and said with a smile, Since Miss Yang came here with such sincerity, how can I let you come here for nothing? This way, please. The surprise came too suddenly, and Yang Yuhuan was about to give up. Who knew that luck would come? She maintained her ladylike demeanor and nodded reservedly. Then I'll have to trouble you. Just now you were still calling me, and now you're calling me a little brother. Can you not change your attitude so quickly? However, what Chu Qingyan was curious about was why this person was looking for a big ice cube. Chu Qingyan nodded and led Yang Yuhuan towards the people by the bonfire. Young master. Chu Qingyan walked behind Xiao Su and called out. After dealing with the matter, the young princess went to talk to the housekeeper of the Liu family, and did not come back. Xiao Su's face was dark the whole time, and Turin and the others had already retreated, hoping that the young princess would come back soon. At this time, Xiao Su heard her voice and his complexion improved a lot. He slowly turned around, and was about to say a few words to her when he saw Yang Yuhuan standing behind her. He couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. What kind of messy woman did this little fellow provoke for him? You know you're back? We still have to hurry on with the journey tomorrow. Go back and rest early. Xiao Su finished speaking and was about to leave when he heard Yang Yuhuan speak. Young Master Xiao, this little girl is Yang Yuhuan, a family member of the magistrate of Fu City. I'm here to thank young master for saving me tonight. Yang Yuhuan saw that he was about to leave, so she immediately walked in front of him and blocked his way. Then she slightly lowered her head and said with a smile. The people around her all said that her graceful neck looked the best when she showed this action. So she deliberately turned her body slightly to show her best side in front of him. Although she only saw the side of his face, just looking at the side of his face was enough to make her mesmerized. If she could catch a glimpse of his full face, then what kind of country-toppling appearance would it be? Yang Yuhuan thought that she had seen many men. But no man could have such a cold temperament, confident posture and peerless elegance like him. She, who thought highly of herself, couldn't help but be subdued by that one glance. The young girl's heart fell because of this. However, the person in front of Yang Yuhuan was not an ordinary person, but Xiao Su, who always kept women at arm's length. Of course, except for Chu Qingyan. It was his characteristic to be unromantic. With just one word, Xiao Su sent her away. He didn't even look at her because he never paid attention to insignificant people. Chu Qingyan secretly laughed. Sometimes, she didn't even need to do anything. The big ice block could get rid of people in minutes. Instead of fighting back, she might as well push the boat with the current and hand the person over to the big ice block. With such a cold tone, it was obvious that the other party didn't have any intention to chat. Yang Yuhuan couldn't help but change her expression. Why didn't this person even reply with a word of courtesy? However, Yang Yuhuan didn't feel frustrated because of this. She raised her head and said with a smile, Young Master Xiao, it's late at night and you've also been tormented for an entire night. This young lady has boiled some brown sugar ginger water. If young master doesn't mind, this young lady will have someone send it over to let young master warm your body, so that you can sleep more comfortably later. Take it as an expression of this young lady's family's gratitude. Chu Qingyan raised her eyebrows. Even sending a drink over. What was this young lady of the Yang family trying to do? Could it be that she had taken a fancy to her big ice block? But wasn't he obviously ignoring them earlier? Why did he change after a fight? Could it be that something had happened earlier that she didn't know about? At this moment, Xiao Su had already opened his mouth. Warm my body? Seeing that he had spoken, Yang Yuhuan was overjoyed, but she restrained her joy and nodded. Brown sugar ginger water can drive away the cold. Chu Qingyan snorted in her heart. Just a bowl of brown sugar ginger water was enough to bribe him? Wasn't it too easy? What happened to being cold and aloof and keeping people 1,000 miles away? Xiao Su nodded and pointed to the person beside him. Give her a bowl. He remembered that the little fellow seemed to still be in that period of time, so drinking some of this would be quite good. Thinking of this, Xiao Su suddenly remembered that she was still riding a horse today, and immediately said coldly, You're not allowed to ride a horse for the next 2 days. After saying all this, Xiao Su then left with peace of mind. Yang Yuhuan didn't react in time, while Chu Qingyan was slightly stunned. Seriously, the big ice block, he even wanted to interfere in this kind of thing. However, she immediately turned her head and smiled at Yang Yuhuan, who was stunned on the spot, and said, Then I'll have to trouble Miss Yang. Yang Yuhuan was a little confused. This young Master Xiao was quite considerate to his subordinates, she really couldn't tell. However, when she saw Chu Qingyan, her expression became a little ugly. This servant had really taken advantage of her. However, she could also see that this Chu Qingyan was a popular person in front of young Master Xiao. If she wanted to get close to young Master Xiao, it seemed that she had to spend some effort on Chu Qingyan. Miss Yang, my young master has asked me to accompany you to bring the brown sugar water. This way please. Cicada had already swiftly walked in front of Yang Yuhuan, blocking her reluctant gaze. Yang Yuhuan's expression changed. How impatient! At this moment, young Master Xiao had already disappeared. She bit her lip and turned back somewhat unwillingly. It didn't matter. The road was still long, there was still a chance. Chapter 579. Because the tent was damaged in the fight, Chu Qingyan wanted to return to the carriage to rest, but Big Ice Cube told her that Big Ice Cube had already given his tent to her and was sleeping alone in the carriage. Chu Qingyan was a bit moved. She was lying in the brocade quilt that he had just laid in, and she was filled with his refreshing scent. She didn't know if it was because of the ginger soup or something else, but she felt strangely warm. The familiar scent and scene reminded her of the first time she went camping in the wilderness. She was so scared that she knocked on Big Ice Cube's tent in the middle of the night. Back then, she was just giving it a try. After all, Big Ice Cube usually appeared arrogant and cold in front of everyone. But she didn't expect that he would really open his tent and accept her. Moreover, she even coveted the delicious taste of his skin and took a bite. Cough cough. She really admired her past self for having the courage to bare her teeth in front of a tiger. But did she still have the courage from back then? When she heard him say those words, her complacent thoughts had been beaten back. If she hadn't happened to pass by his study window back then, would she have been able to deceive herself for a while longer? Chu Qingyan hugged the brocade quilt and was at a loss because this was an unknown answer. Then how do you feel about the little princess consort, master? More like a little sister. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew in and scattered the scent inside. She suddenly recalled a very popular phrase on the internet in the past. Walking and walking you disappear. When I turn around, I realize you're gone. I'm suddenly confused. This phrase was very suitable for her current mood, but she didn't know what answer she was waiting for. That answer that was more like a little sister made her very sad. Chu Qingyan sighed when she couldn't even figure out her own thoughts. Forget it, I'll just keep lying to myself. I'll think about it again when I have nowhere to hide one day. She convinced herself, and then slowly fell asleep. She didn't have any dreams until dawn. Early in the morning, the Lu family and the Yang family sent a lot of things to express their gratitude, but Chu Qingyan rejected them all. It wasn't because they were polite, but because they really didn't need it. At noon, they arrived at Li City. Lu Shi stopped at the city gate and expressed his deep gratitude to Chu Qingyan and her entourage on behalf of his master. He also tried his best to invite them to his residence as guests. However, Chu Qingyan declined with the excuse that she was in a hurry. Lu Shi expressed his regret and thanked her profusely. He even left behind his address and said that he would visit the residence again when he was free. Chu Qingyan accepted with a smile. Who knows if there would be any future dates? After entering the city, Yang Yuhuan sent a guard to pass on a message. Because they had seen Chu Yan's valiance last night, the Yang family's guard's attitude towards them had changed. They no longer looked down on them. Little brother Chu, our miss said that she has already found an inn. Since we have to travel together, why don't we stay together? Chu Qingyan didn't care. She asked Big Ice Block. Seeing that he didn't object, she agreed. As soon as they arrived at the inn, everyone planned to have lunch. Just as Chu Qingyan was about to sit down and wait for her food to be served, two ladies stood beside her. Chu Qingyan looked up and saw Yang Yuhuan and Yang Xiaohuan. She was a little surprised. Don't the two misses need to eat? Yang Yuhuan's face was slightly bitter. This inn's business is so good that there are no seats downstairs. So can this little girl and my sister share a table with young Master Xiao? Chu Qingyan looked around. Indeed, all the tables were full. Madame Yang had already gone upstairs to rest because she was tired from the journey. Originally, Chu Qingyan wanted to say that the two of them could go to their rooms and order more food, but seeing that they were both young girls, she felt that it would be too straightforward. She couldn't help but say, if the two of you don't mind, you can eat together. After agreeing, Chu Qingyan suddenly remembered something. Her Big Ice Block didn't like to eat at the same table with others. She coughed and looked at the person beside her with some regret. Xiao Su originally didn't like to eat at the same table with others. But seeing that Yang Xiaohuan's eyes had been glued to the little fellow from time to time after being saved twice by him, he felt a little uncomfortable. Now that he saw her eating at the same table with the little fellow, he resisted the urge to get up. Chu Qingyan saw that her Big Ice Block didn't get up in anger, and was relieved. Then she immediately said to the two Miss Yang, my young master doesn't like to eat at the same table with others. How about I order a few other dishes for you? No need, no need. We'll do it ourselves. Young Yuhuan was already very satisfied to be able to find a chance to get close to young Master Xiao. She immediately called the waiter and ordered the dishes she wanted to eat. Chu Qingyan saw that Yang Yuhuan only ordered the dishes she liked and didn't even ask her stepsister. She couldn't help but shake her head. Young Xiaohuan was originally a little embarrassed. She didn't know why her elder sister would suddenly think of sharing a table with little brother Chu. Moreover, along the way, her elder sister had been paying attention to young Master Xiao and ordered people to inquire about him. Young Xiaohuan was more naive and didn't understand. But she was very happy to be able to be together with little brother Chu. In her heart, Chu Yan's position was not ordinary. He didn't need to secretly look at her, and could eat at the same table with her openly. Young Xiaohuan was very grateful to her elder sister. Although this N's business was very good, the speed of the dishes being served was very fast. However, Yang Yuhuan, who had been racking her brains to think of a way to talk, saw a scene that she didn't expect. Young Master Xiao actually personally helped Chu Yan to serve the dishes. Although the two of them didn't communicate, they were obviously used to it. How could a master personally do this kind of thing for a servant? Yang Yuhuan was completely stunned. Young Xiaohuan, who was at the side, saw that her elder sister kept staring at the other person, and felt a little impolite. She whispered a reminder, "Elder sister, it's time to eat." Yang Yuhuan's train of thought was interrupted, and she glared at her stepsister with some dissatisfaction. Then she rolled her eyes and pretended to kindly remind Xiao Su, "Young Master Xiao, it's very inconvenient to eat with a veil on. Why don't you take it off?" Last night's fight had consumed a lot of energy. Today they had rushed for half a day. Chu Qingyan was already so hungry that her chest was sticking to her back. At this time, she was immersed in eating. Suddenly hearing Yang Yuhuan's words, she was a little surprised. She raised her head from the rice and looked at Yang Yuhuan with narrowed eyes. Yang Xiaohuan was also a little surprised. Elder sister's words were too bold, right? He didn't seem to be familiar with them. But Yang Xiaohuan never dared to have any objections to her elder sister's way of doing things. She continued to bury her head in eating. When Xiao Su heard that, he didn't do anything. Instead, he continued to eat. From time to time, he would serve Chu Yan food, as if Yang Yuhuan's words were air. Indeed, Xiao Su had only been paying attention to Yang Xiaohuan. That person who was coveting his little fellow. Who the hell was Yang Yuhuan? Not interested. That young Xiaohuan had peeked at the little fellow again. Humph. Chapter 580. Being ignored. Yang Yuhuan clenched the chopsticks in her hand and her face turned pale. Ever since she was a child, she had never been treated like a nobody. That was because she had a father who was the magistrate of a prefecture, who didn't put her on a pedestal. Everyone clustered around her. But at this moment, she was facing this young Master Xiao. Chu Qingyan looked at her pale fingertips and felt her heart ache. She wondered if she had broken the chopsticks just like that. My young master has caught a cold recently, and is not suitable for the wind. Chu Qingyan casually made up an excuse. Big Ice Cube could ignore others, regardless of the atmosphere, but she felt that a relaxed eating environment was still very important, so she casually solved Yang Yuhuan's embarrassment. I see. Yang Yuhuan used her excuse to walk down. Originally, at this time, people who were tactful should just shut up and eat, and let all of this drift away with the wind. But this Yang Yuhuan thought too highly of herself. She turned to Xiao Su and said, "Then young Master Xiao should take good care of himself. It's easy to catch a cold when the season changes." Listening to Yang Yuhuan acting as if she was familiar with them, Chu Qingyan felt that her courage was commendable. Then the table was silent, and no one spoke. Chu Qingyan felt that it was enough. This person was not tactful, so why should she give her a way out? So she lowered her head and continued to eat her food. Inadvertently seeing Yang Xiaohuan eating the vegetables in front of her, not daring to eat meat, Chu Qingyan felt a little pity. With such a domineering sister, life was really painful. So Chu Qingyan pushed the sweet and sour pork ribs in front of her and said with a smile, "Second young Miss Yang, if you don't mind, how about you try the pork ribs?" Chu Qingyan's big ice cube did not like to eat sweets. The reason why there was such a sweet smell on the table was because she liked it. However, he never touched it, so Chu Qingyan gave the dish to Yang Xiaohuan. Hearing this, Yang Xiaohuan raised her head in a daze and looked at the silver-masked young man in front of her with a faint smile, like a summer lotus after the rain, making people unable to help but want to approach. "Thank you." She quickly lowered her head and said softly. Chu Qingyan felt that this little girl was quite cute, like a mimosa, immediately putting away the leaves when touched. But at this time, the person beside her suddenly put down the chopsticks heavily. "I'm full." Chu Qingyan jumped in fright. If she was full, so be it. Was there a need to say it so loudly? Then when she wanted to continue to eat, she found that Big Ice Cube's cold gaze was fixed on her hand. Although he was wearing a gauze hat and she could not see his expression, she could feel his intense gaze and she could not help but swallow her saliva. "Goodbye, my lunch." Thus she stood up and said to the other two, "This one is already full. Please enjoy your meal." The moment he finished speaking, Big Ice Cube immediately stood up and walked upstairs. Chu Qingyan accepted her fate and continued to follow. When Chu Qingyan left the table, she did not notice that the person who had been eating with his head lowered had tears dripping onto the pork ribs between his chopsticks. She found out that she only ate vegetables and did not dare to eat meat. Taking care of her self-esteem, he pushed the food in front of her and said it was to invite her to taste the taste of the ribs. This kind of considerate and gentle young man made her eyes warm, and she could not help but cry. "Mother, daughter thought that after you left, there would be no one in this world who would worry about daughter. But daughter met with it." The older sister beside her kept complaining that young Master Chu had eyes, but could not see the golden jade. Yang Xiaohuan did not hear anything and ate the ribs in the bowl with tears in her eyes. Sweet and sour ribs, it was really sweet, not sour at all. Chu Qingyan did not know that her unintentional action had affected a girl's life. No one would have thought that this timid little girl would one day become famous and become the object of worship for all the girls in the boudoir. But this little girl, from the beginning to the end, only served one person. Chu Qingyan followed Big Ice Cube into the room with a puzzled face. What happened to Big Ice Cube? He was clearly eating well. She saw Xiao Su take off the veil on his head, revealing his purple eyebrows. He casually hung the veil and called Hualing in. "Master, what orders do you have?" Hualing bowed and asked. "Let the waiter prepare another table of dishes." Xiao Su sat down on a chair and lightly ordered. Not only was Hualing surprised, Chu Qingyan was also surprised. Hualing complied and immediately went out. Soon the waiter brought the dishes. When he saw the two again, he smiled until his molars couldn't be seen. He couldn't tell that these two were not fat, but their appetite was quite big, and the dishes they ordered were not cheap. If they stayed for a few more days, they would be able to earn more money. Chu Qingyan picked up the chopsticks and asked puzzledly, "Big Ice Cube, aren't you full? Why are you preparing food again?" "I'm hungry now." Xiao Su's face slightly stiffened, but he quickly hid it. Just now he was full of anger because of her. Oh. Chu Qingyan felt that Big Ice Cube's digestive system was quite good, but she didn't know why Big Ice Cube was dissatisfied with her. The table was filled with carrots. Stir-fried shredded carrots and potatoes, corn and carrot pancakes, steamed egg custard with minced carrots, stewed pork ribs with carrots, diced carrots, carrots and ribs with barley rice soup. Chu Qingyan felt as though all she could see were red carrots spinning in circles. "Eat more carrots, they're good for your eyes." Xiao Su placed a carrot in her bowl. Only like this could she open her eyes and not let everyone be good to her. As for Xiao Su's hidden meaning, Chu Qingyan could not hear it because she was currently fighting with the carrots. After the meal, Chu Qingyan felt like she had to go and digest her food. Big Ice Cube was desperately trying to put food in her bowl, so she felt like her stomach was full of carrots. She clearly wasn't a rabbit, so why did she have to rely on carrots with her rice? But when she went out, Chu Qingyan bumped into Yang Yuhuan. Why was this person like a ghost lingering around? "Little brother Chu, is young Master Xiao in the room?" Yang Yuhuan saw her, and immediately went to greet her. Chu Qingyan glanced at the food box in her hand. The workmanship was exquisite, and she could tell that it was good stuff. My young master is here. What's the matter, Miss Yang? Chu Qingyan raised her eyebrows and asked. I made some sour plum soup for digestion. I want to let young master Xiao taste it. Yang Yuhuan said with a smile. Chu Qingyan rolled her eyes. This Yang Yuhuan couldn't have taken a fancy to Big Ice Cube, could she? So attentive. What exactly did she like about Big Ice Cube? Family background? No, they were very low-key this time. Their clothes and carriages were all very ordinary. Appearance? No, Big Ice Cube was wearing a curtain hat all the way. Yang Yuhuan should not have seen Big Ice Cube's face. Inside? No, Big Ice Cube was cold and arrogant the whole time. He ignored everyone. This Yang Yuhuan must be blind to see inside. Then what was it? Yang Yuhuan's scalp tightened at this time. This little brother Chu didn't say anything and just looked at her. Chapter 581. Chu Qingyan thought for a long time, but still couldn't figure out what this Yang Yuhuan liked about her big ice block. But no matter what, she felt that this girl had no chance, so she tactfully declined. Miss Yang, my young master doesn't like to drink sour plum soup. Please leave. So young master Xiao doesn't like to drink sour plum soup. Then may I ask what flavor does young master Xiao like? Although Yang Yuhuan was a little disappointed, she quickly pulled herself together and asked seriously. This person really didn't give up. Oh, I understand. You understand? She didn't say anything, but what did this Yang Yuhuan understand? Chu Qingyan was a little confused. She saw Yang Yuhuan take out a purse from her sleeve and hand it to Chu Qingyan. This is a small token of my appreciation. Please accept it. You. Chu Qingyan's mouth twitched, feeling that she could no longer use words to describe this person in front of her. It was obvious that she was trying to bribe her. Cough cough, I think it's better for you to ask him about this kind of thing. What do you mean? Yang Yuhuan felt that this person was really stubborn, and her tone was a little annoyed. After saying that, she saw Chu Qingyan point behind her. Yang Yuhuan looked in the direction of her finger in confusion, and saw a tall figure standing at the door. His clean and white skin was flawless. His sword-like eyebrows rested above his profound eyes, giving off a sharp aura. His dark pupils were dotted with ink, giving off a faint coolness. His nose was straight, and his lips were thin and slightly pink. If they were slightly longer, they would be too long. If they were less, they would be too short. If they were too pink, they would be too white, and if they were too red, they would be too red. He was wearing a simple robe, but he exuded an unattainable noble aura. Yang Yuhuan was simply stunned. She was immersed in this extraordinary appearance. Xiaosu didn't expect that the person chatting with the little fellow was this Miss Yang. His gaze went past Yang Yuhuan and landed on Chu Qingyan, saying lightly, After eating, don't run around, rest well. We still have to hurry on the road tomorrow. Without waiting for Chu Qingyan to respond, he had already closed the door. Chu Qingyan glanced at the dazed Yang Yuhuan and shook her head. Why did you come out now, Big Ice Cube? So what if she came out? Why didn't she wear a veil? Don't you know that you have an attractive face? It's not your fault that you're good-looking, but it's your sin to harm others. Chu Qingyan waved his hand in front of Yang Yuhuan's face. Seeing that she was still in a daze, he withdrew his hand and strode away. Forget it, I'll just leave her alone. The design of this inn was quite user-friendly. There was a small courtyard in the backyard for guests to take a stroll and admire the moon. Although it was still noon and there was no moon to admire, Chu Qingyan wanted to go to the stable to see Redfeather, Sweet Potato's favorite mount. Chu Qingyan stayed in the stable with Hongyu for a while before she felt someone appear beside her. She turned her head and was surprised to see that it was Yang Xiaohuan, second young Miss Yang. Chu Qingyan cupped her hands politely. Chu, big brother Chu. Yang Xiaohuan heard her voice and became nervous, stuttering her words. Chu Qingyan was amused by her little chick pecking at rice and couldn't help but chuckle. Second young Miss Yang, don't be nervous. I'm not a tiger and won't eat people. Chu Qingyan's teasing eased the atmosphere. Yang Xiaohuan quickly nodded, but she was still too nervous to speak. Chu Qingyan was about to leave and return to her room, but when she saw the young lady's flustered look, She guessed that the young lady must have been oppressed by Yang Yuhuan too much. That was why she was so nervous around strangers. She couldn't help but stay for a while. Seeing the little girl tightly clutching a plate of pastries, she tried to find a topic to ease the awkwardness. Are these pastries for your sister? Young Xiaohuan was scolding herself for being stupid in her heart for not knowing how to talk to Big Brother Chu. When she heard her, she immediately shook her head. No, these are for you. Xiaohuan saw that you didn't eat much at the dinner table, so I specially prepared them for you. After saying that, she mustered up her courage and stuffed the plate into Chu Qingyan's arms, then lowered her head and ran away. Chu Qingyan blinked as she looked at the plate in her hands. She stared at the small pastries in front of her. This little girl was quite cute. She picked up the pastry and took a bite. It was not bad, so she carried the pastry to Xiao Su's room. If there was something good, of course she had to share it with the big ice cube. Young Xiaohuan hid behind the pillar and saw Big Brother Chu eat the pastries. The anxiety on her face was immediately replaced by happiness. It was great that Big Brother Chu liked it. It seemed that she had eaten one more peach blossom pastry. She could make more next time. Young Xiaohuan, who was immersed in her own thoughts, turned to go back, but met her sister's strange eyes. Big sister. Young Xiaohuan lowered her head in fear. Yang Yuhuan looked in the direction Chu Qingyan left, then said in a domineering tone, "What were you doing just now?" Big Brother Chu saved Xiaohuan, so Xiaohuan just made some pastries for him to express her gratitude. Young Xiaohuan quickly replied. It was the first time she saw her stepsister so concerned about a man. Young Yuhuan had a plan in her heart, so she asked patiently, "Xiaohuan, don't be afraid. Do you like Chu Qingyan?" Young Xiaohuan looked at her smiling sister in front of her blankly, then shook her head. It doesn't matter. Even if you don't admit it, big sister understands. Yang Yuhuan curved her lips into a smile, a light flashing in her eyes. Xiaohuan, as long as you help big sister do one thing, maybe big sister will ask mother to help you propose marriage. Our family Xiaohuan is so cute and beautiful, no man can refuse. Even if her stepsister didn't have such thoughts. Although this Chu Qingyan was wearing a mask, his tall figure, strong martial arts, gentle and handsome body, which girl wouldn't be moved? Yang Yuhuan now needed to deceive her stepsister because she had a bold plan that needed her stepsister's cooperation. And only her stepsister could do it. Because she could see that Chu Yan was polite and distant to everyone. But only to her, this concubine-born sister. He treated her differently. So she must persuade her stepsister. Just now when she left young Master Chu's door, she already had a thought in her heart. This man with outstanding appearance and temperament was the one she would marry in her life. So she must take him down. Otherwise, this shop won't come again. When young Xiaohuan heard this marriage proposal, her face turned red. Although she hadn't reached marriageable age, she was already enlightened. Her fingers twisted her handkerchief, and she lowered her head without saying a word. She also didn't know how she felt about Chu Qingyan, but she felt that Chu Qingyan was a good person. Apart from her mother, he was the best person to her. Yang Yuhuan nodded her head in satisfaction. Her stepsister was good at everything, but her mind wasn't flexible enough. In her eyes, she was just a little stupid, but very easy to coax. So Yang Yuhuan dragged her to the side and began to explain. Chapter 582. Chu Qingyan didn't know what had happened in the small courtyard, and hummed as she walked into Xiao Su's room. Xiao Su looked up and saw the little fellow walking in a good mood. His face couldn't help but soften. He put down the letter in his hand and asked with interest, "Did something good happen?" Chu Qingyan smiled and pushed the plate in her hand in front of him. "Here, try it. Do you like it?" Xiao Su looked at the delicious pastries on the plate and casually picked one. "The taste is okay. Can you make it?" Chu Qingyan giggled. "I didn't make it. The second miss of the Yang family gave it to me. It should be a thank you gift for saving my life twice." Chu Qingyan talked to herself and didn't notice that a certain someone's face was slowly darkening. "It's disgusting." Xiao Su put down the other half of the pastry with a tone of disdain. It's not. I think it's moderately soft and the texture is good. It's not inferior to Huang Yi's. Chu Qingyan doubtfully picked up another pastry and was about to put it in her mouth to taste, but the person in front of her took it and threw it back to the plate. You just ate, so don't eat so many sweets. Be careful not to have a toothache. Go back and rest. Xiao Su drove her out of the room like he was swatting a fly. When Chu Qingyan came back to her senses, she was already out of the room. She touched her chin and was a little suspicious. What was wrong with the big ice cube recently? His behavior was so strange. If only Yen Luo was here, she could discuss it with her. Sigh. Chu Qingyan rested her hands on the back of her head and sighed as she left. As soon as Chu Qingyan left, Hualing was called into the room. Keep an eye on the second miss of the Yang family. Don't let her get close to Qingyan. Xiao Su said without changing his expression. Master, is the second miss of the Yang family very suspicious? Hualing asked while touching his head. Yes, it's very suspicious. Xiao Su said seriously. She had inexplicably become entangled with the little fellow and had been fawning over him. Something was wrong. This subordinate obeys. Actually, Hualing was very suspicious of his master's order. Why was it that compared to the obedient second young Miss Yang, he felt that the eldest young Miss Yang who kept inquiring about his master was more suspicious? However, with the young princess consort here, that Miss Yang was just a piece of trash. He was still very confident in the young princess consort. This pastry is not bad. Bring it back for your brothers to eat. Thus, Hualing happily carried the plate out the door. Soon night fell. After dinner, they went back to their own rooms and slept in their own beds. Chu Qingyan had just come out of Big Ice's room and couldn't stop yawning. Tonight, she didn't know why Big Ice Cube suddenly called her over. It wasn't anything important. He just made her stare blankly at the candlelight for 4 hours. He only let her go back to her room when she was really sleepy. Big Brother Chu. A voice sounded from behind him. AI, Xiao Su had been on guard all day and night, but that second young Miss Yang still appeared beside Chu Qingyan. It's so late. Young second young miss, you're still not sleeping. Chu Qingyan turned around and saw that it was young Xiaohuan. She was slightly surprised, but she still politely greeted her. Young Xiaohuan appearing here was actually because of Yang Yuhuan's instructions. She didn't know what her older sister wanted to do. She just wanted her to stop Chu Qingyan from appearing in young Master Zhao's room. However, when she saw the person in front of her, young Xiaohuan forgot about her mission and started to get nervous again. Chu Qingyan looked at young Xiaohuan who had her head down and didn't speak. She wondered if this child had social phobia. She was afraid of strangers and couldn't speak. The more she looked, the more suspicious she became. Normally, you couldn't deny or attack this kind of person. You had to guide them patiently and enlighten them. In the end, you had to lead them to speak. Thus Chu Qingyan asked, Young second young miss, did you encounter some trouble? Young Xiaohuan nodded. Then, she gathered her courage and looked at Chu Qingyan. I like to read, but I finished reading. Can I ask Big Brother Chu to help me buy a few books if it's convenient for you? I'll give you money. As she said that, she immediately reached into her sleeve to take out her money pouch. Chu Qingyan raised her hand to stop her. I didn't expect second young Miss Yang to be a girl who likes to read. What kind of books do you like to read? Books similar to bead calculation and tea sutra. Young Xiaohuan said embarrassedly. Do all girls like to read these kinds of books now? Chu Qingyan felt that she was outdated. She thought that it was already incredible for her to read books on the art of war. She didn't expect that there would be girls from noble families who liked to study these kinds of books. No, it's what I like. It's just that when I have nothing to do, I will read these books to pass the time. Young Xiaohuan waved her hand and explained. Chu Qingyan smiled. It's normal for someone to like. If it's these kinds of books, I have a few here. Young second young miss, you can take a look and see if you like them. As she said that, Chu Qingyan led her to her room. Not long after Chu Qingyan and Yang Xiaohuan left, a figure appeared in front of Xiao Su's door. It was Yang Yuhuan. In the chilly spring night, she wore a light pink dress with translucent white sleeves. One could vaguely see the white skin on her arms. Her face was covered with meticulous makeup. At this moment, she didn't feel cold at all. Instead, she was excited, nervous, and excited. She raised her hand and knocked on the door. Xiao was taking off his coat when he heard the knock. Only the little fellow would come to look for him at this time. He didn't think much and said, "Come in." Yang Yuhuan didn't expect things to go so smoothly. She pushed open the door and walked in, not forgetting to close the door. "You came back?" And Xiao just turned around and saw the person standing under the candlelight. Young family's young miss. He had already forgotten her name. "Get out," Xiao ordered coldly. At this time, Yang Yuhuan's eyes were wide open. She saw that he had taken off his black outer robe and was wearing a white robe, which made him look handsome and gentle. Her entire mind was hung on him. "Young Master Xiao, this little girl came to visit you in the middle of the night. I have something to ask for your help." She took 2 steps forward. Her eyes were watery, and she looked pitiful. She appeared in his room in the middle of the night just to ask for his help. Xiao looked at her with a gloomy face. "My father is the magistrate of Fu City. Recently, he suddenly sent a letter asking our family to go to Fu City." Yang Yuhuan took a few more steps forward. Xiao originally wanted to order people to drag her out, but when he heard her mention Fu City, he couldn't help but look at her with a frown. Father City, the place they would pass by tomorrow, was also one of the wealthiest cities under his jurisdiction. Yang Yuhuan saw that he was really listening and was overjoyed. She had sprinkled some fragrance on her body. If a man breathed in a little, it would quickly destroy his rationality. At that time, even if he was a gentleman, he would turn into a wolf. Chapter 583. Young Master Xiao, you don't know this. My father didn't send me to my father's city to enjoy the happiness of family reunion. Instead, he sent me to His Highness Prince Ying, who had been banished. Yang Yuhuan held a handkerchief and covered her eyes. She cried miserably. "Oh, give me to him? How come I don't know what these officials are thinking?" Seeing his response, Yang Yuhuan was secretly delighted and immediately increased the intensity of her pitifulness. "Yes, I heard that His Royal Highness' face was destroyed by a fire many years ago. If he comes out in the middle of the night, he will scare people to death. Also, his temper is strange, and he kills people at the drop of a hat. He is cold and heartless, and now that he has lost his power, he has been exiled to this desolate land by His Majesty. If my father really gives me to him, then my life will be ruined." Xiao raised his brows. So this is what the rumors said about him. He was really ignorant. So, he was curious about what this woman who slandered him in front of him wanted to do. "So young Master Chu, can you save me?" "How can I save you?" Yang Yuhuan thought that he had already inhaled the powder on her body and was gradually bewitched by her. Her heart was filled with joy, and she shyly raised her head to look at the tall and noble man in front of her with infatuation. She slowly opened her lips and said, "These few days I have seen young Master's talent and knowledge. This little girl has long admired young Master. If young Master can fulfill this little girl's wish tonight, then my father will not give this little girl to His Royal Highness." As she spoke, she stretched out her hands to Xiao. The wide embroidered muslin slowly slid down her arms with her movements, revealing a section of snow-white skin. At this moment, Chu Qingyan had already brought Yang Xiaohuan to the door of her room. She suddenly remembered that men and women should not touch each other, so she had Yang Xiaohuan wait outside the door. After a while, she walked out with 3 books in her hands. This is the Botanical Dictionary Quanfang Bei Zhu. This is the Agricultural Encyclopedia, Qi Min Yao Shu. The other one is Tiangong Kai Wu. It talks about agricultural production techniques. I see that you are quite interested in life-related things, so I recommend these books. I don't know if you like them." Chu Qingyan placed the books in front of her. She was still a little worried at first, but when she saw the light in Gu Ruoyun's eyes, she knew that the books she had recommended to Gu Ruoyun were not wrong. She smiled. "Yes, I like it very much." She took the books and flipped through them one by one. She was like a person who had walked in the desert for a long time, and suddenly saw an oasis. She was pleasantly surprised and couldn't bear to put it down. She had heard of these 3 books, but there were only a few copies on the market. It could be said that they were the only copies. She had never thought that she would be lucky enough to read them. That's good. Chu Qingyan retracted her hands and placed them behind her back. Looking at how happy she was, it was as if she was looking at her own little cousin. Every time Chu Qingyan returned from school and brought her good food, she would always be this happy, even though her little cousin was only 8 years old. Perhaps Chu Qingyan still could not predict that her unintentional actions would become a gold-ranked housekeeper in the future. Thank you, big brother Chu. Yang Xiaohuan tightly hugged the books and then said, I'll immediately return them to you after I finish reading them. But as soon as she said this, she remembered that the two of them would be separated tomorrow. It was impossible for her to finish reading these 3 books in a short period of time. Her face instantly turned white, and her heart was filled with reluctance to part with the person in front of her. It's fine, you can slowly read them. If it's fated, we'll meet again. They had to pass through their father's city on their way back from the Fuli mountain range. All right. Yang Xiaohuan forcefully nodded. Chu Qingyan wanted to have her go back and rest early, but Hualing suddenly ran over at this time. Little young master, someone broke into master's room. As soon as his voice fell, Yang Xiaohuan was so scared that she took 2 steps back and leaned against the wall. She looked at Chu Qingyan with her eyes wide open, not knowing what to do. Could it be big sister? Chu Qingyan did not have time to look at Yang Xiaohuan's strange expression, as she quickly walked towards Big Ice Cube's room. It couldn't be an assassin, right? Chu Qingyan did not dare delay and quickly arrived at Xiao Su's room. Just as she was about to open the door, she suddenly felt a strong force and immediately stepped to the side. Following that, a figure was thrown out and the door was opened. Chu Qingyan looked over and saw a girl lying on the ground. She was wearing a thin spring robe and was unconsciously crying out in pain. Big sister. Yang Xiaohuan, who was following behind her, immediately knelt down to lift the person on the ground and found that she had already fainted. Yang Xiaohuan raised her head to look at the youth standing at the door, and her eyes were filled with panic. She won't die. Bring her back. Don't embarrass yourself here. Chu Qingyan looked at the 2 people, one lying down and one kneeling. Although the silver mask covered half of her face, the coldness in her eyes could not be concealed. Yang Xiaohuan saw that she had suddenly changed from a kind big brother next door to a cold youth, and her heart was filled with sorrow. She should not have listened to big sister's words and done something wrong. Big brother Chu was angry with her. When she raised her head again, she had already entered the room and the door was closed. Yang Xiaohuan could only help the person on the ground up and walk back step by step. If she knew that big sister would do such a thing, even if she was beaten to death, she would not have agreed. But what the world lacked the most was medicine for regret. Chu Qingyan did not care about the commotion outside the door, and walked straight to the person standing in the room. Seeing that he was safe and sound and his clothes were neatly on his body, she instantly heaved a sigh of relief. From the moment she saw Yang Yuhuan, a string in her heart had been stretched taut. Only when she saw that Yang Yuhuan was standing in front of her did she dare to loosen her tightly clenched fingers. But after loosening her grip, she was at a loss. Why was she so nervous? Big Ice Cube, are you all right? Although he looked fine, Chu Qingyan could not help but ask. And Xiao Su nodded. When he saw her nervous look, he could not help but smile. But before the curve of his smile could even spread, he suddenly felt a flash in front of his eyes, and then his whole body started to feel hot. He was not wearing much and the weather was cool. Why did he feel this way? Chu Qingyan did not notice anything strange about him, and slowly walked in front of him. Seeing that he was only wearing his underwear, she thought that when Yang Yuhuan barged in, Big Ice Cube should have been preparing to rest. She had to admit that Yang Yuhuan's timing was quite clever. She looked around and took his coat, and was about to hand it to him. The night is still a little cold, you dash. Suddenly, her wrist was grasped by him. Her palm was scalding hot, but her fingertips were slightly cold. One was cold and the other was hot. It was as if 2 electric currents had entered her body from her wrist. She seemed to have been pulled by something and subconsciously raised her head. Before she could see clearly, she saw a black shadow slowly coming down. Chapter 584. A mischievous halo danced in his black hair. Then it leaped into her eyes and began to emit a halo. Her eyes seemed to be covered by a ray of light. In the halo, there seemed to be a pair of black eyes, as if they were carrying some emotion she couldn't understand. Then, like a drop of spring water, it fell. It was icy cold on her lips. Ugh! Before she could finish her sentence, the second half of her sentence was swallowed up by Lin Yiqian. That cool breath followed her slightly parted lips and entered her mouth. Chu Qingyan felt that her brain suddenly crashed. She didn't know anything. In front of her eyes, except for the pool of ink spreading out from the pair of thick ink-like eyes, she couldn't see anything else. Her senses became very sharp. For example, his slightly calloused fingers gently rubbed the artery on her wrist, causing her body to heat up all of a sudden. For example, another strong arm slowly pressed her into his chest, making her unable to escape bit by bit. For example, he was like a beginner who didn't seem to know anything, but very patiently pulled her to practice over and over again, pestering her and not letting her retreat. Yang Yuhuan probably didn't know that it wasn't that her incense didn't work on Xiao Su, but that the person who could make him work was not her. The incense she got was called lover's incense, a rare aphrodisiac. This lover's incense could indeed make ordinary men lose control after smelling the fragrance. But Xiao Su was not an ordinary person. He had the medicinal fragrance placed on his body by ethereal, which could imperceptibly suppress the medicinal properties of lover's incense. Lover's incense could only be dissolved invisibly after 3 days. But this lover's incense had another characteristic that other medicinal fragrances couldn't compare to. That was, if the person who smelled the incense was with the person he cared about in his heart when he was relaxed, the medicinal properties would be unknowingly stimulated. Lover's incense was originally used between lovers. Yang Yuhuan didn't completely understand the medicinal properties, so she was thrown out of the room by Xiao Su. It could be said that she reaped what she had sown. Because when he was talking to Yang Yuhuan, Xiao Su inhaled a small amount of medicinal fragrance. The moment he saw Chu Qingyan, the medicinal fragrance on his body was stimulated. Then his consciousness was swallowed up. His body followed his heart and instinctively wanted to rub the person in his heart into his body, blood, and life. He didn't want to let go of anything. Chu Qingyan took the opportunity to take a break and realized that he was already sitting on a chair. And she coughed and sat on his lap. Yes, it was a tight stitch. Yes, his clothes were still intact. Well, it was just that his emotions were in a mess. Big ice cube, we can't do this. She panted slightly and finally managed to finish her sentence with great difficulty. She had almost been swallowed by him just now. At this moment, his vision was still blurry. He was still unable to see the person in front of him clearly. Why? His voice was hoarse, as if he was suppressing something. It was like the rustling of leaves in the night breeze, low and sexy. Why? Chu Qingyan's mind was also a mess. Why? Why not? She had no idea either. There is no why. She, who couldn't find the answer, felt his breath blowing by her ear. It was a little hot and itchy. Then she heard his answer. Follow your heart. There was no why. Ah! She let out a small cry of surprise. Because he seemed to have pinched her waist gently. Cherry fan suku willow slender waist. The gorgeous ending of his words overflowed from his lips. Chu Qingyan blinked her watery eyes. It seemed that she had been flirted with. She realized later that she had really been flirted with. Her face flushed even redder. Big Ice Cube usually looked quite serious. She had never seen him like this before. However, such a frivolous Big Ice Cube was still a little irresistible. Her forehead and his were touching. Their breaths were intertwined, and they couldn't tell each other apart. The temperature rose little by little. It's about time. What? She didn't react when she heard him whisper suddenly. The break was over. The battle resumed. Continue. She felt the palm on her back tighten slightly, and she couldn't help but move forward. Then Big Ice Cube's aura poured down on her. This time he wasn't as patient as before. For a self-taught genius like him, once was enough. The next step was to put it into practice. The air in her body was sucked out bit by bit. But the person in front of her didn't want to let her go at all. Although Yang Yuhuan had left, the lover's fragrance still lingered in the air. Originally, the scent of the lover's fragrance was already very faint, but it couldn't withstand the ups and downs of her emotions. Plus, it was given to her by Xiao. So, she went from being clear-headed at the beginning to being confused by the lover's fragrance. Then, she was entangled by him until she didn't know what to do. His attacks were a little fierce, and she couldn't bear it. Chu Qingyan's hand on his shoulder couldn't exert any strength. However, he was like a good student, tirelessly and persistently exploring and groping. Every time she was close to the boundary, he would stop at the right time and considerately stroke her back to help her breathe. Every time this happened, she would be like a weak and boneless vine, tightly clinging to him, afraid that she would slip to the ground. But his iron wall-like arms kept her in his embrace, as if he was her strongest harbor, and wouldn't let her get hurt. The chance to breathe was just to let her breathe a little more, and recover a little of her strength. Again, he lowered his head. It was very hot, very hot. She felt like she was in a big furnace. She didn't know if this temperature came from him or from herself. Again. Once wasn't enough. Again. The stars in the sky bloomed in front of her eyes. She opened her eyes slightly and looked straight into the sea of stars in his eyes. Those were her stars. They were within reach, but also out of reach. More like a sister. No, she didn't want to be his sister. It was never because she wanted to be his sister that she walked to his side step by step. Her efforts were never to be a sister. In the past, her heart that had never been dissected was suddenly torn apart bit by bit, because of this proximity. Again. Continue. In the end, it was unclear who took the initiative. The two of them were like two wild beasts, releasing the most primitive impulse between a man and a woman. She couldn't let go. She was unwilling to let go. Whose chest was the warm palm burning? The light in the whole room seemed to be poured on the two overlapping figures. It also seemed that only the two of them existed. Coquettish eyes closed shyly, red lips smiling. Windy grape belt, sunny pomegranate skirt. Pity, love, entanglement, reluctance moved. The room was full of confusion. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.